we go.
Recording.
Oh, shit, here we go. The Joe Rogan Experience podcast is brought to you. What's going on with this fucking? What's going on? We were both doing it. No, I was silent.
No, we were both.
I was silent, but you were then I turned myself on. Where was I? The Joe Rogan Experience podcast is brought to you by the Fleshlight. If you go to joerogan.net and click on the link for the Fleshlight and enter in the code name Rogan, you will save 15% off a slimy pink jerk-off device.
Yeah.
And it's a good one. It's a fabulous product. Okay.
Haven't used mine yet.
Use it. You haven't used it yet? That's ridiculous. Let's make the music so it's official. Hit it. Doesn't feel like a
Joe
podcast.
Rogan Experience.
Oh, the blackout.
Riding a horse when I hear that music.
Yeah.
The wind in my hair.
Yeah, that's how it starts, baby.
Smile on my face.
Wild times. I could live in the wild times.
Let's get on our horses and just ride. That's what I want to say once.
Be out there on that prairie and I could survive not talking to anybody.
Damn right. All I need is a match, a Bowie knife, and my dick.
It's always that character, that Charles Bronson dude who wants to live in the woods by himself and doesn't bother anybody, but the government has to go out there and fuck with him and he winds up killing everybody. What is it that we admire about that guy who doesn't
That's
need
the American
anybody?
way. Self-sufficiency, man. I don't need anybody but myself. I'm self-reliant.
Yeah, but you know, with a lot of guys, like the loner would be kind of creepy. But Charles Bronson had a way of pulling it off that was admirable. There was nothing Ted Kaczynski about him.
No,
you know
Charles
what I mean?
Bronson was a badass, and God help you if you were a fan and tried to come up to him. This guy I know, Adam West, you know, Batman?
Yeah.
Told me a story 16 years ago about how Charles Bronson was reading a book in a bookstore, and this guy comes up and goes, "Excuse me, Mr. Bronson, I'm a huge fan." And Charles Bronson goes, "Fuck off," and goes right back to his book. Just like that. The guy was like, "Oh, okay."
It's
Yeah, he
hard to
didn't like that
know
shit.
how much of that is the truth.
Well, no,
God damn
he
it,
was
people
notorious.
are so full of shit.
He was notorious for being just not the friendly. He was a real tough guy, actually.
You know, when he did Hard Times, if you've never seen Hard Times, youngsters,
Great.
yeah, youngsters, please. It's one of the goddamn all-time classics.
It's a beautiful movie.
And it's really like the first like underground cage fighting movie. They actually fought in a cage.
Yep.
Bronson was in his 50s when he shot that.
Was he in his 50s? Because
In
you
his
see his body,
50s.
it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
He had a lot of Native American in him, and I think he used to be like an acrobat or something.
Something along those
Yeah, he
lines,
was in
yeah.
a circus, I think.
Yeah, even with Wikipedia, we're just bullshitting through this. He was in the circus, yeah.
He's in the circus.
He did capoeira in Brazil. In Brazil, he did capoeira.
That's always my favorite stuff when people go, "No, this guy I know, this guy, it wasn't UFC, dude. He fought in the underground in Burma. He has 17 confirmed kills under his belt."
There was
Really?
a lot of guys who just made up a bunch of shit like that in the 70s. And
Greatest.
Remember the guy who they did the movie Kickbox? No, not Kickboxer.
No, Bloodsport.
Bloodsport. Yeah, Frank Dux.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a ninjutsu guy. Went out there to the Kumite and just fucked everybody up.
Damn right.
Supposedly, he had a
And
story.
Remember Dim Muck, which was Death Touch?
There was a guy named Raphael Torre, and I've talked about this guy before because this guy snuck through my crazy radar, and I realized that there was something wrong, and then it turned out he was a killer. Like, I didn't know.
Oh,
I
really?
was around this guy. He was a friend of a friend. He was a friend of Eddie's. And I was around this guy a couple times, and normally my crazy radars are really good.
Yeah.
But this guy snuck right through it. And he was such a pathological liar. This is one of the things that he did. He was a fake black belt. Well, one of the things he did was he had a friend drive him to this spot, and he said, "I'm going into the woods. You can't come any further. I'm going to go to this kumite, and I'll be back in 2 days." So his friend drives him into the woods, and then he sees him like walk around and like hide behind a tree, and it's like, what the fuck is he doing, right? So he kind of hangs back to watch, and the dude starts walking back down the road where he came from. Like, so the guy drives off, right? He goes like, I don't know what the fuck his deal was, but he wanted to be dropped off in the woods. The guy comes back 2 days later with a trophy. He comes out of the woods, and he has a story about, well, I had to fight 50 men. All bare knuckle. Some guys chose to have glass on their hands. Some guys not. Just had crazy, nutty, fake
it was probably
cage fighting
just
stories.
a guy fuck fest. I gotta put this handkerchief in my pants. Don't worry about it. It's just a signal.
It was nothing. There was nothing happened. He made up the whole thing.
Yeah.
There was no kumite out there.
He just came a lot.
He just went
guys.
to the.
Yeah, it's the same thing. I had the guy in a headlock, and then I fucked him.
Well, he wound up killing a guy by choking him to death.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the story, is that this guy was just this crazy pathological liar, and he wound up hooking up with this girl, and the girl was married, and he choked the husband to death.
Oh, nice guy.
So
Yeah.
in real life, when you choke somebody to death, instead of like just choking them like jiu-jitsu style, you have to like continue to choke them when they're already passed out.
You'd have to hold it for
Yeah,
a while.
you just hold it.
Because like in the movies, it's like, and then they pass out and they're like, he's dead, you know. But in real life,
That's like in,
you have to do it
what's
for
that
like.
movie?
Some people would die from it.
Inglorious Bastards, when he chokes her with his hands. With
Yeah.
his that's really hard to do.
Really hard to do.
You know?
Even put a guy out by
Yeah.
choking him with his, it hurts, but it's all a matter of how much you can tolerate.
Yeah.
You know, it cuts your breathing off because it crushes your windpipe if the guy's got good thumbs, but it probably won't put you unconscious.
It's
hard.
So, yeah.
It's hard.
It's
You
not
can do it.
It's not something I practice.
But some guys will tap to that, like kickboxers when they first start fighting in MMA, they tap to like forearms across the neck. Like a guy will just stack them and get a forearm on their neck, and they just can't deal with it.
Well, they don't know
tap
how to.
out.
They don't know how to react to it.
Yeah,
Probably. So-
yeah. I've seen it a few times, like high-level kickboxers, like Tom Erickson. I think Tom Erickson did actually tap a guy with a rape choke. He actually grabbed his neck like this,
Wow.
what we would call the rape choke.
Wow.
Yeah, and he tapped the guy. The guy
Some
was a
dudes have
kickboxer.
inhumanly strong hands,
Yo,
though.
Tom Erickson was 300 pounds.
Yeah, that-
All-American wrestler, gorilla.
You're gonna tap.
There was one point in time when Tom Erickson was the scariest guy on the planet, and he kind of missed both boats as far as like fame, and a lot of people don't know about Erickson because of that.
Yeah.
But if you go back to like when Erickson fought Kevin Randleman and smashed him and knocked him unconscious, he was fucking like really close to 300 pounds, corn-fed, just one of those big crazy white boys, just and a powerful wrestler, just a real good wrestler.
I'd love to have rape choke strength with other guys. Just grab a guy and go, "You're going out."
But with Erickson he was getting famous right at the time where the UFC was falling apart, and so he went to fight over in Japan, and he just never really. The peak of his athletic talent and the peak of his possibilities, they didn't collide together correctly.
Well, one of the things I was thinking about is like just for MMA, like if you're tennis players, MMA seems to be to stay on top. Like what the way, say, Anderson Silva or GSP has, is so extraordinarily difficult because there are so many good guys now coming up. And more importantly, it looks to me like a lot of these guys are really learning how to box because they're coming out of boxing gyms. When you learn how to box and you can punch now, instead of like punching like a wrestler, they're punching like boxers. When you don't have gloves, you make one mistake, you're going to sleep.
Yeah. There's this guy, Fabio Maldonado, that's been fighting out of Brazil, and he just fought recently. And this fucking kid he's got nasty hands, dude. And he fought Kyle Kingsbury, who's like a
what weight is
serious
he?
athlete,
What weight is
205.
Oh, God.
And Kyle Kingsbury was grabbing in the Muay Thai clinch, and he was just ripping hooks to his body. And Kingsbury had to let it go, which is rare.
God, yeah.
Most of the times when a guy gets you in a Muay Thai clinch and you punch his body, the guys can take it.
Yeah.
But he turns his punches over so good, and he's so loose with them, they just blam, blam. Like they were just vicious body punches. You see the difference between a guy who could really punch. Like if you got a guy like Manny Pacquiao and you gave him those little gloves,
Forget it.
let me tell you something, man. If you don't take Manny Pacquiao down the first 5-10 seconds of that fight,
You will
you're
die.
getting-
Did you
you're
see,
getting
did you
fucked
see what
up,
happened
man.
to the back of Ricky Hatton's head when he
Yeah.
hit him with that hook? I thought he was dead.
Dude.
I was like, I've never been like, oh my God, he got shut off.
The thing about Pacquiao is he's a little guy. He's only 147, 150 pounds, but
Yeah.
he hits fucking hard for a little guy, dude. I've watched him physically hit the pads. Freddie Roach was holding pads for him. I watched it. And dude, first of all, the punches come so fast and all of them are hard. It's not so like maybe like there's a guy who could punch 40% harder than him.
Yeah.
But he might only hit you once. Pacquiao's going to hit you 18 fucking
That's
times.
the thing. I think a lot of guys can't train for that kind of speed. You can get your sparring partners. You can't. Like when I watched what he did to Margarito, who is a bigger guy and has been through wars and has actually never been hurt. Margarito's a rough.
Well, he
rough
got hurt by
customer.
Mosley before
Yeah,
that.
that's true.
Mosley beat
That's
him
true.
up, but that was
But he's
he
still
was
a-
psychologically fucked because they caught him with plaster in his gloves.
Yeah,
and-
that's right.
And
I
then they
remember
made him
that.
fight anyway.
Yeah.
Like that's crazy
Yeah.
shit. He knew he was going to be suspended. He was going to be
But
vilified.
He's such an assassin, and to see Manny Pacquiao take a bigger man like that and do whatever he
He's
wants.
a monster. Pacquiao's one of the, if not the greatest of all time, top two. I mean, I would think he's number one. And people will argue with it, but God damn it, he's won world titles in 8 different weight classes.
Ridiculous.
Who the fuck has ever done that?
I would love to have seen him fight Duran. That would
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh my God. Duran at 147. The Duran that beat Sugar Ray in the first fight.
Crazy.
And that really wasn't his best weight class. Duran's best weight class was 135. Yeah. 135 is one of the greatest lightweights of all time. If you watch like his fight with Ken Buchanan when he won the title, he was fucking vicious Panama street kid.
Unbelievable.
Just an animal, man.
He was a born fighter. You see what these documentaries on that guy. It's like a pit bull. It's like a game-bred dog. Like a guy.
They went to interview him.
His face.
They went to interview him in Panama when he was a kid, when he was a contender, when he was coming up, and they're following him in the streets, asking him about boxing. Where'd you learn how to box? And in front of these reporters, he grabs a cat by the tail and throws it into a brick wall.
Oh my God!
Yeah, in front of him.
You know, I remember when there was an old interview, and you could probably YouTube it, where he's being asked by like Brent Musburger or someone about his fight with Hector Macho Camacho. He had some fight with, it was later on in his career, and you'd hear him say some stuff in like Spanish, like maricón, And Brent Musburger, and the interpreter would say, because Brent Musburger, do you feel that you're fighting in an outside? It's going to be hot. Is the heat going to affect you, or do you think you're used to that? Against someone like Macho who moves around so much in a ring. Like he just goes, maricón. He's referring to Mr. Camacho as a homosexual. And so Mossberger,
That's the translator had to say.
So Mossberger would be like, well, yeah. But do you think that you're fighting now with 10-ounce gloves as opposed to 12-ounce gloves now, and you are a harder hitter, and a lot of people say, do you think that's going to favor you in the fight? You're going to go to the body, you think, more than the chin? And he's still referring to Mr. Camacho as a homosexual. And then finally, I think the third time, like whoever it was, Musburger, he was like, he's still calling him a homosexual. Well, anyway, that's Roberto Duran. I guess we're not going to get anything out of him. He was impossible, man. He was just like a guy, a true fighter.
Well, also, he grew up in Panama, man. I think if you grow up in a tough country, you grow up in a spot like that, you grow up poor.
Noriega, they say Noriega and he were friends. Like Noriega liked him a lot. Like
really? I bet everybody would like him. Yeah. He's Roberto Duran.
You can't not love a true fighter.
Like a true fighter representing your country. He's a warrior. They had other guys. Eusebio Pedrosa, wasn't he from Panama as well?
I
think he was.
From Cuba.
Was he?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't remember. I thought he was from Panama, but Duran was one of my favorite fighters of all time. Yeah. Yeah. And the guy couldn't even speak English. It didn't matter. He was such a savage.
It's going to be interesting to see like guys like Nick Diaz who are coming out of Andre Ward's camp and stuff, and these guys who are really studying boxing. And even though you have to know everything in MMA, which is what I love about it, you are going to get some guys who are going to become, incredible boxers. And I think that it's going to be an issue about you're going to have fights that last that are not going to. You can't have very good punchers. You can't slip when you don't have gloves. When guys can punch that hard, I think something's gonna have to give there.
Right, you can't make as many mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, Cain Velasquez is great, right? We know how great he is. Now he has to fight Junior Santos, and Santos can hit, so somebody's gonna catch somebody in that fight, and it doesn't necessarily mean it's the better fighter. It might mean that you just got caught,
or your game plan was a little too hasty.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. You got to be very careful. You saw the Czech Congo Pat Barry fight.
Yes, I did.
Which is the craziest ending in any fight ever. I mean, that's a perfect example of why you have to be so careful in MMA.
It's unbelievable. And Pat Barry is explosive. Oh my God.
And he went after him, man. He decided that he was getting criticized for his fights and he was kind of boring and people were saying he doesn't, take enough chances. Well, he showed why he doesn't take enough chances because, look, when you take chances, you can get knocked the fuck out. I mean, and it was a fight he was winning easily. If he just fought at a disciplined pace, that probably would have never happened.
Right, and that's experience probably, right? I mean,
yes, experience, but it's also he chose to fight in an exciting style on purpose. He wanted to throw caution to the wind and just go, kill or die, kill or be killed. And I think he did that. He did exactly what he wanted to do. But some guys never do that.
And by the way, Shea Congo taking those shots.
God damn.
He's not, I've never seen a body like that. It's the most ridiculous thing ever.
He's a superhero.
He's a transformer. He's a
superhero. He's an extreme mesomorph. That's what that guy is.
That's exactly what he is.
He's just super muscular, like perfect athletic frame. You know, he's not the best heavyweight athlete though, which is weird. I mean, Cain Velasquez is a way better heavyweight athlete, which is weird because if you saw the two of them together, the average person looks at Czech Congo and Cain Velasquez, and you go, get the fuck out of here. That black guy's gonna kill him.
Yeah, but you
like,
know,
look at him.
That's like wrestling. Like, you know, you go to like you roll in jiu-jitsu and some guy comes in, he's got this beautiful body, and somehow you can move him, manipulate him. Then a guy shows up and he looks like a plumber with a bit of a belly, and he's just like immovable. You know, I think it's how your body's balanced.
Congo is always dangerous to anybody because he's got some pop in those hands, dude. He was the only guy to really hurt Velasquez too. I mean, he's tough as shit. He went 3 full rounds with Cain, and Cain beat the fuck out of him in that fight.
Yeah,
you know, he's obviously durable because Congo caught him with some big punches. Mir put him to sleep, but Mir got him in a guillotine.
Yeah,
Mir's guillotine's nasty. Yeah. He did it so perfect. If you watch the way he locked it up, he cinches it up. He blocks off the neck with his left arm and squeezing with his right. It's like, oh, it was just, Mir is one of those guys, man. If he catches you, especially in the early part of the fight where he's not even a little bit tired, and you give up an arm or a choke or something like that, he's gonna break your neck, man. I can't wait
to see my boy Mayhem Miller, who's my become a good friend. I just love that guy. I want to see him fight Michael Bisping.
It's gonna be great.
I love Mayhem. I just love watching him. I love his whole attitude. He never stops moving. He will never stop moving. I wish that people could see what he did, but I was in Vegas and we were laughing and talking, and he kept moving around and we're joking around, and then finally he got so excited he walked out in the hallway and he went, nobody was watching. He just kind of punched the air and ran down the hallway for no reason. I was like, he just spazzed out in the hallway. He got so excited, and then he came back in.
He beats up air.
He knows he's got some extra energy. He's got to get rid of it.
Smart guy, by the way.
Yeah, he's supposed to be doing what he's doing.
You know what's crazy is you can look at him and see, like, that guy, like, I'm not going to fight that guy. That guy's scary. But, like, last night, Jake was in the audience at one of your shows. What's his name? Jake, right?
Jake Ellenberger.
Yeah. And he sat in my seat, and I'm like, who's this guy sitting in my seat? And I'm walking up, and I like look at his ears. I'm like, I'm out of here.
But Jake Ellenberger.
Jake was there when I was. Jake was there with. He came to my show in Vegas with Mayhem, and he looks
Jake
like
Ellenberger's got a fire hydrant on his shoulders.
Yeah.
It's like ding.
Yeah.
He looks like somebody took like clay and they chipped. They were a bad sculptor.
Yeah.
They chipped out like his head. This is good enough.
That dude's a tank.
Yeah.
And he's scary as fuck. He's gonna fight Jake Shields. That's going to be a very interesting
fight.
He's
a very good striker. Jake.
Yes.
I think he's a better striker than Jake.
Oh, he's a lot better striker than Shields. But Shields has got some wicked takedowns and his top jiu-jitsu. Like, if he gets on top of you, oof, you're fucked. Yeah. Jake Shields is one of the best in the world at finishing guys in MMA and jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
His jiu-jitsu is like real simple. Like, he's always used no gi. He's not a gi guy, so he doesn't have any gi habits at all. And if he gets on top of you, he's a wrestler, so he's got awesome positioning and control, and he's strong as fuck, and he'll squeeze off arm triangles on you all day. If he catches you, if Jake Shields gets on top of you and he gets you in a bad position, you're fucked, man, because it's like a level, it's a really high level of jiu-jitsu that guy brings.
Right.
If he gets you in a checkmate position, the odds are that you're going to squirm out of it. Like, look, he got Paul Daly in Elite XC. And in Elite XC, they were fucking him by, the fight goes to the ground for more than 15 seconds, they stand you up. Like, literally, they told the referees to stand fights up, even if they're active. Like, Roy Nelson got stood up when he was in fucking side control working on a Kimura and Andrei Arlovsky, and they stood him up. It was completely ridiculous. Well, Jake Shields' jiu-jitsu is so tight, he caught Paul Daly with an arm bar, even under those rules. He doesn't need much time, dude. He gets a guy like Daly on the ground. It's like, give me that bitch.
Crazy.
It's just that high level stuff.
It's nuts.
But he's got to get it to the ground. That's where Ellenberger throws.
And if you can defend the takedown, that's a huge part of it.
And Ellenberger moves good on his feet too. That's the other thing. He's not a dude who just stands there like a robot. Like some guys who just kind of wade in. He moves. He moves on his feet. He moves on his toes. That's a tough fight. That's an excellent fight.
What's your call on the Bisping Miller fight?
It's fucking. Can't wait to see the series, because the series is going to be hilarious. Because Mayhem is never going to stop fucking with him.
So funny.
And I've already heard some shit that's gone down. I can't divulge any information and give you any previews, but there's already been some crazy shit going down. And Mayhem is having a blast.
He's a true entertainer.
He
Mayhem
loves
to me,
it too.
Like, I'm around comics all the time. That dude's hilarious. I mean, he's a true personality. He's got bigger than life personality. He's so entertaining. Like, I love hanging out with the guy because it's just always fun.
You want to get some insight into him? Read his articles.
He's smart.
Yeah, he's a good writer, man. He's a good writer.
I have no doubt. He's a really smart guy. Yeah. He's not, you look at him, he's got dyed hair. He's like, hey, smart, very smart.
He's got a great take on things and a very thought out take on things. And if you read his blogs, like he's very proud of them. He's a very good writer. And he could fucking easily write a book, and it would be a great book because there's a guy who's lived some crazy shit.
Well, my buddy Anthony Tambakis, who's a novelist, who actually was talking to him about his novel. He said you should write a book, and I think he's going to call it Total Mayhem or something.
Yeah,
this is great.
Yeah, why not? Just tell his story, man.
Yeah.
His fucking stories of getting in fights with his dad and growing up getting in fights on his block.
Well, I said the first time I met him, we were in Vegas, and I walked up and I said, "Dude, I got to just be honest. In a t-shirt, you don't look that tough. I mean, besides the nose and the ears, but you look at his back, and he's a big guy, but it's kind of lanky. I mean, if he said I'm a tennis pro, I'd be like, that makes sense. You're a tennis pro. You're not. He doesn't look like an MMA fighter. He's not like Jake. You look at his ears and his neck, you're like, wow. But Mayhem from behind looks somewhat slender.
This is a gay conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
This is how stoned I am. I've been listening to you guys like as if you guys were all gay guys, like talking about other guys.
You're talking so much louder than everybody else.
But in the steam of the shower, what I'm trying to say is that he tends to, just the way the water rivulets off his body.
Mayhem's holding me down. I can't believe you're butt fucking me.
This is so weird.
I can't believe you've got that kind of top game.
Yeah, just don't smile at me because then it makes it really gay.
For the last 5 minutes, I've been thinking about that, and you're like, like you said, beautiful body. You said you should see his if he gets a hold of you on top. You're like. You just replay the whole thing, what you're saying, and act like you were talking about other guys, like gossiping. Yeah. It's one of the funniest things ever.
So if you just
replayed it. You're probably right. The psychiatrists have a field day. First of all, you know what?
All psychiatrists would have a field day talking about jiu-jitsu. It seems so gay.
Two guys in their 40s. Two guys in their 40s. Yeah, two guys in their 40s passionately talking about fighting.
One guy has a very, very manly beard. The other one just shaved his off, and he's got a backwards baseball hat, and he's pushing 50.
Cut to us in hour 1. No shirts. No shirts. I'm hot. I'm not going to wear these pants.
God, I got this new lotion I'm using on my chest. I don't know if it's the right choice.
Let me see. How does it feel?
I smell like flowers, bro.
Man, you feel as slippery as a slide.
I finally found the secret of listening to MMA talk. Now I will not have eyes glazed over anymore. I'll be giggling like a motherfucker.
You just pretend it's talking about gay sex.
Cuts me wearing a bandana for no reason.
A lot of people still don't know that Bryan was the one. I had a thing called Getting Pumped that Howard Stern used to play a bunch of times. It was on my first CD, I'm Gonna Be Dead Someday. And it's me and this other dude working out in a basement. And it's me and Bryan. So and it was, that was fun.
Me and you.
And Kelly Kirsten. Kelly Kirsten played my mom.
I remember when we laid that down.
Yeah, that was fun, dude.
But
that was very fun.
Anyway, if you ever meet Mayhem, ask him to tell you the story about when he was in Florida and he ended up ninjaing like 6 guys because he was dancing with a girl and the guy's like, "You trying to disrespect me?" He was like, "Nah, I'm not disrespecting." And the guy's like, and he throws a punch and Mayhem basically goes, "Hey, kid," with an elbow, "Kid," knocks him out. He goes, "I gotta get out of here." He goes out there and like 6 guys come out. He's like, "Oh, here goes." Yeah. They had no idea what they were getting into. It's like. It's like a bunch of, coyotes coming in on a pit bull or something. And they're like, let's get him. He's like, knock you out. There was a pile of bodies around him.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, you want to fight him? You're not a pro. You've thrown a couple punches in your life. You took some karate in high school. Go have fun. Have fun with Mayhem Miller.
Well, but people don't understand the difference between a professional fighter and a regular human being. This is something they're doing every day, all day for hours. And Mayhem doesn't take time off. He doesn't get fat. If Mayhem doesn't have a fight going on, he's still training. He's still doing jiu-jitsu, still doing his boxing, he's still doing everything. You're right. It's literally like trying to have an argument with a guy, and all you have is a book on the language, and he's fluent in it. So he's going to tie you in knots.
That's exactly what it is.
That's what it's like. It's like fighting is like a language, and everybody thinks, "Hey, you got a fucking haymaker, bro. Let me tell you something about this haymaker." You don't realize
he sees it coming before you do it.
A mile away, he's gonna kick your knees out from you
and giggle while he's doing
and laugh, and then you're gonna realize he doesn't get tired because he's fucking doing it for 6 hours a day.
I remember getting drunk with Eve Edwards and Nate Marquardt. We were shooting this movie in Pittsburgh, and Eve started just.
This is Warrior, right? This comes out in September.
Yeah. And it's been testing through the roof.
This is where you play me.
I play you. I remember I called you and I said, "I'm playing you in a movie." I called Joe. I go, "I'm playing you in a movie. Can you give me some advice?" He goes, "I just try to take myself completely out of the equation," and that really helped. I just would call the fights, but they wrote some funny stuff for me. I'm a smart ass, in the movie.
Nice,
nice. It was a good time. But I remember rolling around.
What is your name in the movie?
Bryan Callen.
Is it really?
Yes, they wrote it as Bryan Callen.
Perfect.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why more actors just don't do that.
No, because the way I got the part is I put the writer and the director together.
Imagine that. Tom Hanks stars as Tom Hanks, a knight.
They should do that.
Danny DeVito is Danny DeVito.
A short twin of Arnold Schwarzenegger, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger.
And
do you think Schwarzenegger is ever going to bounce back? Do you think anybody
Yes.
will ever
I
take
don't
the
think-
guy
Absolutely.
seriously
I think
again?
so.
I don't think so.
think so.
Mainly because it depends on how he reacts to it. But if you're older now, first of all, nobody wants to see him as an action hero. Number two, look, I understand infidelity. I can understand as a man you may stray. Let's all be respectful. Let's all be forgiving, etc. Okay, not that I've ever had thoughts like that, but the point is that if you're gonna funk the housekeeper, first of all, that's outrageous. But I'll give it to you. I don't know. Maybe she had big tits. She was ovulating. She smelled like something. You were bored. I get it. You're the king of the world. How about pulling out or wearing a condom? I don't know. How about not giving her a baby?
I think the whole thing is the wild thing. The whole thing of doing it is you're not even supposed to be doing this, and she's sucking your raw cock, and you just look at that fucking housekeeper pussy. This is my house. I fuck everybody in my house. And you just think about it, and you just, should I pull out? Conan doesn't pull out. Just shoot a load into her like Conan should.
Yeah, when you're the king of the world, why not?
He's
Why
the
not?
king of his world, man.
Yeah.
The guy's living in this $20 million mansion. Apparently, right after this happened, they put the house up for sale. And it wasn't, he didn't own it. He sold it to someone else, but this is the house where all the affairs took place. And he sold it to like some professional golfer or something like that. And that guy put it up right away.
Wow.
And he might have put it up right away because people started hassling him.
Yeah,
because
or the,
people
or
wanted
the,
to
or
go
the
see.
overwhelming stench of the dried spooge everywhere. Hey,
It's
this
just
place.
the
Hey, wait, this
sour
house
milk.
smells like cum and infidelity. This is weird.
You hear it echoing in the walls like a mass murder.
Smells like
the haunted
sauerkraut.
building. That building's haunted with him coming. Coming all the time, coming.
I'm coming.
And he fucked her for 10 years, man.
He did?
He was fucking her for 10 You were so excited.
Oh, I thought
you
you
were so excited.
I thought it was a one-off.
Oh no!
Oh, my
my
God.
friend. No, he was
10 years.
he was banging her in the bed. He
That's
was,
outrageous.
He was banging her in the bathroom. He was banging her everywhere.
Unless you think of it as a tool for masturbation type thing, like she was just like a fleshlight.
Okay, you obviously have a problem with
tongue.
women.
Yeah, what are you talking about, dude? That's a human being.
Yeah, but it's also his maid.
I
so
saw
it kind of
her.
thinks
I
of
saw
it
her.
as a
She
tool.
actually has a face that looks a little bit like Mayhem Miller's, and I'm not attracted to that. But I guess he is. She was a big. Who knows what she looked like when she was younger?
I think he could make a comeback if he does a movie like Copland. I don't know if you remember
what
that.
she looks
movie.
By the
like?
way, I don't mean to make fun of.
She looks
how
like the
somebody
Mexican female version of KRS-One.
Listen, she has a daughter. That's all.
She's a pretty lady. That's what I'm saying. I'm a big KRS-One fan.
As am I.
Whoop, whoop. That's the sound of the police.
Look,
Whoop,
good
whoop.
for her, man. She was doing what she was. No woman can say no to Arnold Scorsese.
Is in
I've
the
dated girls
house.
that told me
My
that they would
cock
have had
is
sex
out.
with me.
Yeah.
Did you ever see Copland though? Like that was kind of a weird movie for Sylvester Stallone, where it was kind of like he played a little
he got
chubby.
fat, yeah.
I think if Arnold does a movie like that, where he plays a character that's like kind of like down on his luck, coming back, kind of like a dirty cop or
I don't
something
know.
like that.
There's
I
a
think he could do it.
stench of
I
failure.
want to see a good actor do that. I don't know how good an actor he is. At
Yeah.
that. I don't
True.
go to the movies to see Arnold Schwarzenegger do dramatic acting.
But you also thought that as Sylvester Stallone when you did Copland, didn't you?
No, because Sylvester Stallone did
do it.
Rocky.
Yeah.
Okay, you got to remember, he did some shitty ass movies, but Sylvester Stallone did fucking Rocky.
Wrote and acted in it.
And
And it was one of the best movies.
Hung
ever.
in there because they wanted to give that movie to someone else. They wanted to give that movie to some other stars. And he said, no, this is my movie.
right.
And when he wrote this and did this, in the end of the movie, he doesn't even win. That's what a lot of people don't even realize. He loses in that movie. Yep. It was inspired by a losing performance by Chuck Wepner when Chuck Wepner fought Muhammad Ali. So he wrote all this shit out, did it all himself, and acted his fucking ass off. He became a goof kind of later, and I love him. I mean, when I say a goof, I'm saying a guy who does these big, crazy, cartoonish movies. And
don't forget how great those movies were. When you were a young man and I saw First Blood,
Yeah.
that was one of the best movies I'd ever seen. I loved it.
It was great for who you were at the time,
sure,
and
sure.
at the time it came out, being 14 or whatever.
Right.
But Rocky's still a badass fucking movie.
Yeah,
man.
but I mean, if you take away the fighting, I haven't seen Rocky maybe 10 years.
Oh,
but
the fighting is not good.
No, I know, but is the acting actually
Oh,
good?
yeah.
It's
Talia
unbelievable.
Shire, brilliant in
I
that
actually
movie.
just watched it 3 days ago.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you something right now. That movie holds the test of time.
Does it?
It is still one
Fuck
of the
yeah,
great
dude.
movies and one of the most moving movies. When he's down, he's going, stay down, Rock.
Yeah.
Stay down. Remember Burgess
Yeah.
Meredith when he that actor who comes
Oh.
and he says, I want to be a manager, Rock. I'm 76 years old.
Oh, yeah.
I want to be a manager. It stinks. It's my place. And he does that whole thing. Then he
Oh,
comes running out and
brilliant,
puts
bro.
It was such a beautiful.
It was brilliant.
It was one of the greatest character pieces ever written, in my opinion.
Yeah, dude, when he's angry and he's like, this is all he's got in his house, and Bert's around there and he's yelling and screaming. That was so fucking real.
And then he was so moving when he looks at Adrian and he goes, "Remember when I said that stuff they said about me on TV didn't hurt? It did." And he walks away.
Yeah.
Your heart breaks for him, man.
Yeah, it's like when he gets his shit together and got up and starts drinking raw eggs, you start moving in your seat and you get goosebumps.
A lot of people credit that
Jesus,
movie.
I gotta watch this movie again,
a lot of people credit that movie for ushering in the fitness craze in America that happened shortly after
Dude,
that.
I was, whatever I was when it came out, 11 or something like that, I drank raw eggs and ran around my block.
You're damn
I almost
right
threw up.
I remember doing that too, but
Yeah.
I just don't remember the
So did
acting
I.
of him.
Dude, he was a
being
bad
awesome.
motherfucker. And it's a weird thing. It's like, how does a guy, I guess he just gives up on good movies and says, let's just make something crazy and explode and have a good time. Let's have a good time, everybody.
Yeah, that might be it. But I also
that
think
it?
what happens is, like with Arnold or anybody, when you surround yourself, and it's almost impossible to avoid, when you surround yourself with an army of people that make their living off you, what happens, I think, is that, like anything, a politician who's been in power too long, you lose self-awareness because everybody's telling you you're perfect, you're great. They laugh at your jokes and everything. You're the emperor. And I think that the biggest trapping of that kind of fame is that you start to drink the Kool-Aid,
Right.
and you lose perspective, you lose self-awareness. You keep playing the same note over and over again because people keep telling you it's great, and instead of like actually putting yourself back in the real arena, which is competing with what's really going on and having people really give you real critiques. I was in an acting class and Burt Reynolds showed up and he did some scenes in class.
That's badass.
And I thought to myself, Burt Reynolds at 70, whatever, is still not only doing scenes in class, but kind of failing in front of people and having a teacher critique his performance.
And was he getting a lot of white pussy because of this? Young white actress pussy?
I didn't see that, but that's probably why anybody would be in an acting class, by the way.
Was he Burt Reynolds from Boogie Nights?
He was so good and so hilarious. He did a scene from Carnal Knowledge with Catherine Bell from anyway. But
Well, he's another guy, right? Go back to Deliverance. Burt Reynolds was a bad motherfucker.
Yes, he was.
He was a bad motherfucker.
And then he got vain.
And then he got weird.
Well,
yeah.
you start wearing a wig and you get plastic surgery. I don't think
Still, though, dude, those fucking... There's something about him in those Smokey and the Bandit movies where you really wanted him to succeed.
He was a great movie star,
Yeah,
man.
he was a good-looking guy who was always happy. He always had a smile on his face. He had a silly mustache, and he was always getting the girl, and you wanted him to.
He was a fucking
You wanted
he
him
was
to
a
get away from
man's
the law.
man.
Yeah.
And by the way, he made a fucking mustache work.
He fucking rocked that mustache, son.
I grew a mustache. I did this thing for a Californication. I had a mustache. I look like I should work in a deli.
Yeah.
That's as sexy as I get. Like I should be making sandwiches. He looks like a fucking, a leading man.
I look like an ape.
Very hard to pull off a mustache.
I go human. This is why I got human here, and then I go to ape, and then I shave it down to human. When I went with a mustache once just to goof, and Mrs. Rogan was like, "What the fuck is that on your face?"
Terrible, right?
It looked like a caterpillar.
Yeah.
Like a big, fat, thick bug.
I look like an aggressive gay man who makes sandwiches. I fuck guys and I make sandwiches in my deli.
You know who it works on? Brian Jarvis. You know that comedian Brian Jarvis at all? Yeah. Brian Jarvis has a Tom Selleck mustache, and if you know his comedy and you know his face, it's just perfect.
When you say aggressive gay man, for a while, I never knew that crystal meth was so popular in the gay community. I had no idea that meth and amphetamines and speed and amyl nitrates and a bunch of like really crazy chemicals were so prevalent in the gay community. So I would occasionally run into dudes that were gay, especially around West Hollywood near the Comedy Store, that had this crazy fucking look in their eye. They were like really obviously gay. I didn't know they were hopped up on drugs. So in my silly 25-year-old just moving to LA mind, I was like, wow, there's a certain look that some of these gay guys get when they're really crazy. I didn't realize that there's I'm in the hub of gay meth use in the country.
That's it.
You thought it was a sexual look, like, oh my god, he really wants my
I just
dick.
thought that's what they looked like. Like it was like
you have amazing radar for anything off kilter. It's like an animal of prey that sees, like, if you put a cow in a not an animal of prey, not that a cow is an animal of prey, but if you put an animal of flight flashlight in like a stall, and there's a piece of like a string hanging that it hasn't seen, they won't go in that stall. And you have a very good eye for something that's like that sharp F. Like there's music, and all of a sudden somebody comes in with a horn, like, you know, you're like, oh, that's something weird. You pick up on that stuff better than anybody I know.
I grew up without anybody protecting me. So I grew up in some weird situations, and you know, we lived in a bunch of places where I didn't have any friends, and I was forced at a very early age to try to kind of like get an objective sense of the world around me without listening to other people's opinions of it, without you know, taking for granted that everyone else is paying attention and that they've got a grip on reality. To me, no one had a grip on reality, so I'm always like scanning everything. And I'm an honest person, so when I see someone, there's something off. When I see something off, it's literally like it smells to me. Yeah. And I always use two examples. One, I use the one with the girl with you when I met, and this is a true story.
2 seconds. She's crazy, dude. You got to get out of here right now. She's crazy.
I wasn't just saying that this is maybe a crazy girl. I was like emphatic about it. I was trying to gab him out. Yeah.
And I didn't know it. She was doing meth. But I chose to move her into my house. Anyway,
but that's where it comes from. And the other one was this guy that turned out to be a child molester. And my friend Jan was on the podcast a couple weeks ago. We talked about it, where I met the guy, and right away they're hanging out with this guy like he's their friend, their buddy. And right away I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing here? What this? Like everything was like, all these alarms are going off. He calls me up a couple of weeks later and goes, "You're not going to believe who just got arrested." And he says that guy's name, and I go, "He was a child molester, right?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "How the fuck did you know?" I go, "Dude, I don't know. I don't know how I knew, but that was number one guess."
You mean when you were younger you met this guy? Or
No. This is just a few years ago. But those are my two best examples of being able to pick up.
There was something about
right away. I saw him, and right away I was like, "What the fuck?" And I even said to the guy, "What's up with that guy?"
What was it?
I don't know, man. It was everything. Smells, the way he's moving, the way he's interacting with other people.
Yeah. Smelled like a young kid's penis.
Well, when you say smell, stop it, Brian. When you say smell, that's a thing that they believe about psychosis, about some psychotic behavior may actually be triggered by pheromones. And literally, you put out a certain smell, and this is all theoretical, and they really don't exactly know like what causes some people's psychotic episodes, but they think you put out a certain smell, and then people smell this, and they're put off by you, and so people are acting weird with you. So you think, "Am I weird?" And it starts this chain reaction that literally can make a person slowly go crazy. We know when the worst thing you can do to a person in prison is to put them in solitary confinement and leave them alone with their own thoughts without interacting with people. So there's something.
That's when psychosis actually forms.
Yeah, there's something that we need when we interact with people. Yeah. And when we get it wrong, like if you literally smell off, and I'm using the word smell because there's a smell like that.
There's a rhythm.
Pheromones are like, you don't really smell them,
I think people vibrate at the wrong frequency sometimes. They're jerking differently. In your body, there's a book, Malcolm Gladwell wrote that book, Blink, about that, where a human eye can pick up a massive amount of information. Did you ever read that book? He uses an amazing example of there was the Getty Museum paid a fortune for a statue that was a young Greek boy. It was called a Kouros, and they found the statue in Greece fully formed. And they were like, "Whoa, this statue is like," they had never found something, and it was worth a fortune. And the Getty was going to pay something like $100 million, some crazy amount, $30 million, whatever it is. And it was a lot of money. And so, but the thing is, the Getty kept running these tests on it, and this guy, the guy who was the curator and people, when the first thing that came to his mind, he said, when I saw it, there was something off. I said, what was it? He said, the first word that came to mind was fresh. When I saw it, it looked fresh. He said, and if something's been in the ground for 5,000 years, it shouldn't come out looking fresh. So they ran all these tests. They dug into the marble really, really deep. They took the mold on the actual marble to see how old it was, and they did all these tests. And they literally spent a year testing it before they bought it. Okay, so now they buy it and they put it on display. I believe they brought it to Italy to show at this big. It was a traveling exhibit, And the minute they were setting it up to show, as they pulled it off, I believe if you guys are listening and you read the book, it's been a while since I read the book. So, but for the story's sake, the curator of that museum, the guy who's the expert, they lifted the veil to show how they were going to present it. And after all these tests, and he stopped and he goes, "What did you guys pay for this already?" And they go, "Yeah, what are you talking about?" "Oh, no, can you get your money back?" No, this is a fake. This is a fake." Wow. And they go, what are you talking about? And he picked up on it. He picked up on what everybody else picked up on it, but they were so excited that they actually found this thing that they didn't want to believe it. And he said, if you have to test for a year on the authenticity of something, all of you guys, all of your experienced minds were telling you right away, there's something wrong here.
We wanted that mystery shit.
He uses so many classic examples. Watch this. When he had, they had people come to his office, to a psychiatrist's office, and they would, when they mentioned the words orange, Florida, and raisin, people left the office much slower than they did otherwise. Why? Because when you mentioned orange, Florida, and raisin, people thought of old people, retirees. And so young people would actually leave the office. They would walk down the hallway, leaving the office much slowly, a lot slower than they did when they didn't hear those words. So what you hear, what is suggested to you has a profound effect on your physiology, not just your mind. And he uses so many incredible examples of this. I can't even tell you. It's incredible. Cool. So if you guys are listening, the book is called Blink, and it's outstanding. Blink. All of Malcolm Gladwell's books are great.
So this guy, in literally a blink of an eye, saw this statue and knew.
Immediately.
He felt it.
And the human eye you can glance at something and pick up on everything.
Right.
Much more information than you can even imagine. And we have learned how to do that. It's called, he calls it slicing, I think broad slicing or something, where you just, pick up
I've always felt like there's more senses
Chunking.
than we can totally define, because there's a sense when someone's lying. There's a sense that it's very difficult to describe deceptive language, because if you looked at it on a computer, the timing seems to be pretty similar. I mean, if someone's good at it, their timing is pretty similar to someone who's being honest.
Yeah, but what does a lie detector do? It measures in a very minute detail your breathing, your respiratory rate, all these things, the heat of your skin and all that, and that changes when you're not telling the truth.
I've always wondered
unless you're a sociopath.
If that goes off though, if you're nervous, because you ever been innocent of something, but someone thinks you're guilty, and when you're describing what actually happened, it sounds ridiculous,
it does,
and you feel like you're guilty, but you're not guilty.
It does, but,
I've been there.
But a guy who knows how to operate a lie detector will take that into account, and that's why when you do that, they ask you very simple questions first. They ask you, what's your name? Where'd you grow up? And and then they'll start getting into it slowly, and they take that into account. Now, a lot of guys will tell you can throw off a lie detector test by getting your body tight to begin with, and so you fool it. So you get into a state.
What if you were high as fuck?
I don't know.
I bet you could go in there on LSD and just blaze through that bitch.
With sociopaths, apparently it doesn't work because they don't care if they lie or not. There's no guilt.
You would think, though, you could easily throw it off by just like every time he asks a question, you just think of something like my dog dying or something like that.
But they can force you out of that. There's like, they know that people do that, so there's tactics in order to trip you up with questions that kind of will fuck with your emotions.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what the question's going to be beforehand.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I know what you're saying, though. I would think that, too. Think about Spider-Man. Yeah. Every time, they ask you, have you ever stole money from this bank? You think about Spider-Man.
Or just put like razor blades in your ass and it hurts so bad the whole time you're thinking about the razor blades.
Somebody say razor blades in their ass.
Oh, Brian. There's a thing that when I wanted to talk about this, when you were talking about that statue being a fraud, there's a thing called the Voynich manuscript. I don't know if you ever heard about this, but it was a book that was thought to have been written in the early 15th century, and it's in a language that no one could decipher. And they sent this to all the top coders and the experts and the people that decoded the Nazi signals in the 40s, and the top coders in the world. And people have gone over it for decades. Nobody can figure out how to fucking decode it. They have no idea what this language is. It's all like illustrated with all these beautiful pictures. But nobody wanted to admit that since they had been working on this for so long, it might just be bullshit.
Yeah.
And that's what it turns out it is.
Happens.
It turns out that this is a guy, they think the guy that sold it initially to this Voynich fellow was a con man, and that he knew that Voynich loved old manuscripts, so he concocted this really elaborate old manuscript, complete with detailed pictures of plants and all these different things, so it makes it look like there's all sorts of knowledge in this book, but it's 100% horseshit, a fake language. And he wrote a 240-page fake language book, and people have been studying it since fucking, when did he get it? 1912.
Incredible.
1912. So for 100 fucking years, assholes have been going over this guy's fake book, and people suspected it early on. People were like, well, what if it's a fake? No. And the more time goes on, the more they don't want to even think about the possibility that it could have been a fake.
Yeah.
It's kind of like
that's very human. That's very human.
Yeah.
And this story, it's in the beginning of the book, is just incredible. Where you just say, "Wow, the Getty got duped by a comment." You know what they found the mold on the because it was taken from a type of a type of marble that can only be found in a rock bed in like Thessaloniki or like one of these so they came from there, and the mold, they have these tests to test the mold and how old it was. There's a type of mold that grows on a potato that you can grow on marble. So whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing, man.
Wow.
And they just got away with 30, 40, whatever $million at the Getty. Just
And then
hung
did they
in
just
the cut.
disappear?
Some people are such badasses. Like, talk about just going all the way. Like, yeah, found the statue. I don't know. You guys want to buy it? Like, what, even coming up with that, like, hey guys, I got an idea. Let's carve a statue out of marble in the rock bed of Thessaloniki, and we'll grow a potato mold on it and sell it for $40 million. Get the fuck out of my office! What?
Somebody must have really known a lot about art to pull that off.
That's what blows my mind. There are people out there that are just so good at stuff like that, and that's how they do it. They just hang in the cut and they go, I'm gonna rip off a museum.
That's like
and
some
all the
movie
experts
shit.
in the world.
Indiana
Yeah.
Jones.
That's movie shit.
It
Yeah.
is.
It's like you heard about that Lee Murray heist.
No. Oh yeah, the fighter,
the MMA fighter from
$83
England.
million or
Yeah, something like that. It was in pounds. I don't know how it translates.
I want to
but
be a fighter and a bank robber.
it was like the biggest heist in history.
They should let him out. Come on, he's awesome.
They wore masks and guns, and they literally like planned it all out and timed it all out to the alarms. They did it like a goddamn movie. And he's in a jail in Morocco now, and Morocco won't send him back over.
Really?
Yeah,
God.
Morocco's pretty loked out. Like if you're a Moroccan citizen, they protect you.
Oh,
so
he was
there's been a few fighters that got in trouble and just bolted to Morocco. Like Badr Hari got in a bit of trouble, bolted to Morocco. Once you're in Morocco, man, they take care of their own.
That's not bad.
And they love fighters in Morocco.
Do they?
Yeah. But Lee Murray, man, he just fucked up too large. They had to come after him, even in Morocco.
Yeah,
and when he was in Morocco, by the way, on the lam, he beat a guy up and kidnapped him.
Oh my god. He's a rough guy.
So he wasn't slowing down once he got to Morocco.
I got a feeling he runs that prison yard.
He's an animal. Yeah, that guy was, he's quite a character. That guy got almost stabbed to death. He got stabbed like some insane amount of times. His heart stopped a couple times. They had to restart him on the fucking operating table. And he had a video online of him 6 to 8 weeks, I think, after open heart surgery, hitting the pads. Then they're like Lee Murray's back, and it shows Lee Murray like bobbing and weaving and throwing combinations on the pads. Dude, 6 fucking weeks after open heart surgery.
I take a 3-hour flight. I'm like, I gotta take a nap. I'm tired.
I wish I know the exact amount of weeks it was. It might not have been 6. It might have been 12. Whatever it was fucking ridiculous. This guy just had open heart surgery, and now all of a sudden he's hitting the pads, and he's getting ready to fuck people up. Jesus. That's what he's saying. He's like, I'm back, you fucking bitches. And he's throwing punches in the pads. And you're like, this guy almost
stop my heart with a knife, and I'll still kick your ass.
He's a legit gangster. That guy was legit.
He's originally from England, though, huh?
Well, he lived in England. You know, he lived and fought out of England. Fought some tough guys too, man. Fought Anderson Silva, went the distance with him. Wow. And Anderson was really coming into his own.
Does anybody get away with bank robbery? Does anybody pull off huge heists?
That's a very good question, man. A guy just pulled off a fucking Picasso heist in San Francisco.
Picasso's different though, because art is a really good thing to get into. Because first of all, juries consider it like a victimless crime, so a lot of times you don't do a lot of time. And also, there's always and also there's just people that you can unload it with.
It's an interesting story though. This guy walked into a gallery, picked it up off the wall, walked out, got in a cab, took off. Nobody noticed him taking this Picasso sketch off a wall. Wow. It's worth like $200,000. He just grabs it and leaves. Yeah. But the thing is, like, good luck selling it. How are you going to sell that thing?
That's the issue.
Everyone knows what it is. You know, I mean, Picasso only has.
There's private sellers.
You sell it to some really rich Chinese tycoon who lives like, in Manchuria and wants it on his wall.
Yeah, you would have to know exactly who that guy is. That's like a tricky situation.
But they usually do. They usually go, I got a Picasso for sale. Give me $100,000. Yeah.
But that's how usually they get caught, though, too. They sell it to.
Well, you got to let the guy who's selling it make a big piece of the pie. That's what you got to do. If you got something like that and it's stolen and you're smart, what you would do is you would go to someone and say, listen, man, we both know this thing's worth $200,000. Give me $100,000.
You know what's funny?
And then you take $100,000 off of it, and then the guy's like, okay, well, I just made a good fucking chunk of money. Now this is worth my risk, and I can insure both of our safeties.
But I don't think criminals.
Yeah, I'm like a gentleman criminal.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I don't think criminals like that do it for the money. I think criminals do it for the juice.
Yeah.
I think that, and we all have. Some people have to get drunk. Some people have to get, they have to do blow. Other people just have to do crime. It's the same kind.
I recommend jiu-jitsu, my friend.
Jiu-jitsu.
Get in there and get your freak on.
I gotta start rolling.
Get back in there, buddy.
I need to go to Javier Verdum's place.
Who?
Javier Verdum is half a mile away.
You mean Fabricio?
Javier's
his brother.
I'm gonna go in there. Hey, is Javier here? Oh, really?
Javier's his brother. That's like, Fabricio's not that big a deal, man. I'm telling you, I haven't got the real deal.
I gave him an award at the MMA awards. Fabricio, he is such a giant.
He's a huge dude.
He's just a huge guy.
He's a badass jiu-jitsu guy. If this was just jiu-jitsu, if MMA was just jiu-jitsu, he's one of those guys that really became an MMA fighter as a jiu-jitsu champion and had to learn everything else from scratch. And when he first fought Arlovsky, you look at that fight, he had no striking. Even when he fought Alistar the first time, had very little striking. Yep. He just wanted to get guys to the ground, and when he got Alistar to the ground back then, he submitted him. Yep. It's a shame that there's not professional jiu-jitsu and professional wrestling.
Well, it's a Mundials, right?
Yeah, but there's not real money in it. You know what I mean? I mean, and wrestling as well, man. Real professional wrestling. It should be a goddamn sport.
That's a very small audience who understands.
You say that, but fucking golf is on TV, man, and that's boring as fuck.
Yeah.
If you could watch real high level wrestlers going at it and pinning each other.
Love
yeah,
it,
dude, you can't tell me that if you didn't get someone to explain it correctly, you get some really passionate wrestling champion guy to explain it correctly.
I almost think that people who watch wrestling did wrestle, so they know the difference.
I don't know about that, man. I think people could watch it just I swear to God, I could watch golf. I know it's boring as fuck, but I can watch it. There's a conclusion. I know what the conclusion is.
Yeah.
This guy's gonna hit that thing, and if it goes in there, then he's happy. And if it doesn't go in there, he's fucked.
Right.
You know what I mean? So in that simple little, I don't play golf, and I don't know what strokes are.
You should never pick up golf because you'll become crazy.
I'm not gonna touch it
because you're so obsessive.
It's pool outside. You'll love it.
I can't do. Well, I wouldn't do it. Well, that's what I always think about. Why would you play pool? If it was outside, wouldn't you make it all inside? That would be ridiculous because then you could play in the rain. Golf, you can't play in the rain. Especially in the East Coast, they're
I know.
When you get an addiction, you don't want to have to take the time off in the winter.
It's crazy.
I played pool all through the winter. You can always play pool.
You can still play in the rain, and that's what kind of makes it different than pool is that your environment's always changing. Yeah. So it's not like the same flat surface every time. You're like, hey, now the pool table is in a mountain, and there's an ocean in the middle of it.
That is cool, and it also is cool that you have to adjust for the wind and shit like that. Yeah. Think about you're playing against nature a little bit.
Golf is it's that saying. It's the longest distance is that one the distance between your ears. It's all mental.
Yeah. So as is pool. Game. Pool is what you're doing with pool is you have a slippery surface of a fast Simonis 860 cloth, right? It's not even felt. People think of it as felt, but it's a cloth, and the balls roll very nice and smooth and even on that. And the balls are all waxed and cleaned, and they all weigh the perfect amount of weight. They all weigh the same exact weight. And these balls, you're colliding one ball into another, trying to send it into a very small space. Usually in pro tournaments, it's 4.5-inch pockets. So you have very little room for error. And you're calculating the exact distance, the amount of rotations that ball's going to make on this slippery cloth to get your ball in the perfect position for the next shot. And it becomes this weird Zen thing.
Do you know, on that, speaking of balls colliding into each other, you know what that collider actually, that super collider in Switzerland actually does?
Large Hadron?
You know what it actually does? You know what they're trying to figure out?
The Higgs-Boson particle, the God particle.
Well, actually, they're trying to prove
boson,
that with string theory, this notion that there are other dimensions where matter goes, right? And so when they collide these things together, within this chamber, when these two atoms, I guess, or is that what I think they're hitting at? When they collide, they give off debris. They give off energy. If that energy goes away, if part of that energy kind of isn't there anymore, well, that would prove that those tiny particles that are made actually smaller than quarks are going somewhere else, and that's how they're trying to prove that there are other dimensions.
Yeah, but does that even make sense? What if those articles just burn out? You know what I mean? I know they said that energy can never die or whatever, and if those particles go into another dimension, but what if those particles just died? What if we were just wrong about that?
I don't know.
Here's why. Here's why. Because particles two things can happen.
It's energy.
There's a lot of confusion when it comes to subatomic particles and when it comes to any kind of quantum theory because it sort of gets kind of culty and weirdy, and it sort of gets a lot of it is theoretical. But here's what they do know. They do know that particles can exist and not exist at the same time. They can be in two different places at the same time, and they're the same particle, and they can disappear and reappear, and we don't know where they're going, but they do go somewhere, and that seems to indicate a level of evidence at least some infinitesimal subatomic level that there is some sort of a passageway where things go from one place and come back.
And string theory is based on this notion that that at the end of it, the very smallest particles are all of these sort of vibrating circles of light. And those are so small that they can fit into different, I guess, dimensions of where. And the idea behind string theory is that you have the Newtonian reality, which is the reality you and I live in, which is gravity and everything else. And then you have the subatomic reality, which is whenever you get into the subatomic world, a lot of times the very laws that govern us are in fact the opposite. Light bends, gravity collapses on itself. All these things that I don't know about, but I mean they'll talk about. String theory is what Einstein called this unification theory, this one thing that brings all of it together so that you have one theory that can explain how the world really works.
But there's still really a lot of controversy with it.
Yeah.
Right? It's
all imagination.
Yeah.
But they are proving with math, with mathematics. There's a very good lecture on it in TED, but they can prove with math that there are other
11 dimensions, right?
Yeah, 11 dimensions.
I have no idea how the fuck they prove it. When someone says that, I just repeat it. Oh, they proved it with math. But,
what was that? What was that? The answer to that theory, that question they were coming up with, the answer was 357 pages long, all numbers. Hey, this looks like fun reading.
Jesus Christ.
What are you talking about?
It's like anything else, man. It's like what we discussed when we were talking about fighting an MMA fighter is literally like trying to get in an argument with someone and all you have is a language book, like for the average person.
Yeah, they speak a different language.
They speak the language of mathematics, and they've been speaking this language for decades and decades, and they go deep into the rabbit hole.
It's all because mathematical theory, which is where you go, is all imagination. You see these guys sometimes, and they're actually really like, this one dude who's working on the particle collider. He gave this lecture at TED. Young, really good-looking kid, like dressed like with these awesome clothes, and just kind of like, geez, you don't get laid, do you? And yet he's this brilliant physicist. Well, physicists sort of have a history of being skirt chasers. If you go back to Feynman, that was like one of Feynman's. There was like a bubble chart that would be like, are girls around? If no girls around, work on physics. Here's what's great about that is that I'm not that smart, and I have nothing to talk to girls about for the most part. I wonder what those guys have to say.
Feynman was just such a genius. I mean, he was such a good talker too, and he had like kind of a cool accent too. Because even though he was a genius, he had a very sort of an ethnic East Coast accent, which is really odd.
Well, this guy who I'm talking about, he's from Manchester, and he talks like that, and he's unbelievable. He's got long black hair, and he wears this great sort of these vests. I'm like, dude, your accent, you got hair like Johnny Depp, and you helped build that collider. You're one of the leading minds, and you're 28.
You know who my favorite guy is? Aubrey de Grey. Do you know who he is? He's the guy who's trying to make people live forever, and he has this incredible mane.
Oh, I know exactly who that awesome
he drinks
guy is.
Beer like every day. Yeah.
Oh, he's awesome.
Amazing. He's amazing.
Did you Ray Kurzweil now has Transcendent Man. He came out with that.
Oh yeah.
There's a documentary.
Oh yeah, we've talked about it 100 times.
Really good.
Yeah, it's a brilliant.
But I love that guy with that long beard.
That guy's awesome.
People can live forever.
Yeah. Well, he's fucking on the cusp. I mean, that guy is at the head of,
Genius.
all the creative ideas about genetic engineering and,
fucking crazy.
Redoing organs. They created a windpipe recently with stem cells. Did you see that?
Yeah, because what they did is
they
took what they did is they took a cadaver's windpipe and sprayed it with stem cells, and it grew over the cartilage.
Yeah,
which is like,
it's incredible. And then they installed it in the guy's neck, and now he can breathe.
Yep. And they did the same thing with bladders. They're doing the same thing with bladders.
Are just at the beginning of some.
It's like the one guy. It's like the really smart guy. I can't remember his name. And he went, "We've not invented anything." I tell people that, and they don't understand. Nothing's been invented yet. Just wait for the next 40 years.
Oh, yeah.
If you're around for the next century, it's gonna everything you know out the window.
I put up something on my Twitter yesterday about a 3D printer. And it was on a television show. There was a video of it on Live Leak. And this 3D printer, this guy takes a wrench, and they put the wrench into a copier. And the copier looks at the wrench and figures out how the wrench is built, and then makes it out of resin. Makes it out of this incredibly hard hard resin where you can actually use it as a fucking wrench. So this thing literally physically made this wrench with moving parts and prints it all in one piece. It's so genius. You know how a wrench has that thing in the middle where you have to screw it with your thumb to adjust it?
Yeah.
Well, it made that all in one printing. And it made that part that screws with your thumb a different color. So the adjustment wheel was a different color. It was red, and the rest of the thing was gray. And it printed it in one 3D form. It's fucking incredible.
You just tweeted that video?
Yeah. Just yesterday.
That's why you can talk about magic. Technology is way more incredible than any kind of magic you can think up. I mean,
it is magic. I mean, that's probably what magic is.
That is what magic
all these stories of magicians, it's probably just they came upon some fucking idiots that didn't have fire yet. You know, they came upon some dummies who didn't have guns, and they had bang sticks, and they fucking just dominated shit.
That's it.
Yeah, I mean, look, what fucking magic? Everybody forgot it. They remember everything else.
I like that.
They forgot all the magic?
In Transcendent Man, where they were talking about basically that we are going to mesh with machines. There's no question, and our biology is going to die off. As you make eyes that work better, as you make skin that can heat up, as you make, your body is going to start meshing with biocompatible components that mimic and are in fact better than the very material you currently live in, and it's going to be a world where people are going to decide to go that way, or other people are going to decide, you know what, I'm going to die like with my old biological self.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to figure out what people choose.
God,
my favorite part is about that movie is just the story about him and his father.
Right?
Yeah, man.
He wants to recreate
that
his
was
father.
about a guy who really misses his father and doesn't accept death.
Yeah.
Well,
that's an ambitious thing. Like, you know what?
motivation.
I don't accept that people die. Fuck it. I'm going to invent something where they don't. You're like,
Well, it was obviously to him, it really like defined him as a human.
Loved his father.
Yeah, loved his father. And, that's the same story with that guy, Ronald Mallet, the professor out of the University of Connecticut. That's the leading theorist on time travel. His father died when he was a kid. And it freaked him out so bad that he dedicated his life to developing a time machine because he wants to go back in time and save his old man.
Jesus.
If that doesn't make you want to fucking cry.
I know.
And this guy's like, no, he's in his 50s, and he's like the leading, and not only that, he's figured out, at least theoretically, through his studies, that would actually be impossible. And that what's going to happen with the time machine, that the current theory is that when a time machine is invented, what the issue becomes is then all time ceases to become linear, because everyone from the invention of that time machine on to the end of time can come back to that moment in time and any moment in between and any time they choose. So time loses all of its linear quality, but only the moment the doors opened. That's when it happens. So literally the idea is that the way they describe it is you can't travel where there are no roads. Once the road has been created, from that moment in time on, time ceases to become what we define as time today.
I had Einstein's theory of gravity and explained to me, for example, the sun is 93 million miles away from the Earth. Why does it have an effect? Why does its gravity affect the Earth, and so on and so forth? Why does the moons have the same relationship with the Earth? And the way Einstein described it is really interesting. He said time and space bends. It bends according to whatever object is essentially in it. So if you look at time and space as a blanket, a tight blanket, and you drop a pool ball on it, what happens to the blanket is there's an indentation. Then, so that's essentially what it's doing to time and space. It's bent that plane of time and space.
That's a wild way of looking at it.
And now it's spinning. Now take another ball. The smaller ball is rotating around that because it's created an indentation there in its own orbit. So that little ball is now going around the perimeter of where that one ball is sitting. It creates a vortex. And that's how Einstein described gravity to a 4-year-old. He said, this is how gravity and time works. And of course, the farther away you get from that, the less you spin, or the longer it takes to complete one revolution, which means then that you get, as you go farther away, you don't age as quickly. I mean,
time goes by much slower.
That's right.
Well, that's
because it
what's
takes
crazy.
longer. Why? It takes longer to revolve around whatever is exerting gravity on you.
But isn't that a crazy thought that you could escape gravity and live longer?
Yeah.
Technically, you would live longer.
That's right.
And when you would come back,
but you would have to go out.
But would it be relative? Like for you, like what I'm saying is, if you went out and you were 30 years at the speed of light, and then you came back and everyone was dead, and the people that were children were old people, you would be the same age,
Yes.
but
Or
you would
roughly the same
feel
age.
like you had only lived 30 years or whatever the fuck it was. You wouldn't feel like you've gone through
you would probably
100 years
those
like
30
everybody
years
else.
would be real for you, I guess, in
your time, in 30
your
years time.
Sure.
Well, how does that fucking work?
That's what's so
Are you
crazy
moving
about it.
slower? Like, what's going on?
No, you're actually if you're see, because take the sheet and then take the ball that's in the middle of the sheet. As you rotate around that ball, if you're close to that ball, it takes, it's a smaller circle, isn't it? As you get out farther, it's like a record player. Take a record player. If I put you on the first line, it's going to take you a much shorter time to make a complete revolution. I put you at the end of the record player, it's going to take you a long time to go all the way around. That's time. And as you go further out, it takes you much longer to complete a year. It's a really wild concept, but that is where time and space bends.
See, that's where my feeble brain loses
it starts short-circuiting.
Because the reason why I'm losing it is because why does it take more time when you're out further when in Earth time it's going faster? I understand that there's revolutions, but why are you not aging and feeling the same thing as those people on Earth? If it's like I can't, the idea of alternate versions of time and in space and traveling at a speed, it's too much.
What's amazing though is that it's been proven with subatomic. When Einstein came up with these theories, we didn't have atomic clocks and things. We didn't have the actual tools to prove it. And it wasn't until later on when we actually came up with the technology that and the math to prove it, especially the instruments to measure it. And when we came up with the instruments to measure it later on, say 30, 40 years later, it turned out the guy was right. That's when you're really smart. When you're like, I got a theory. You guys don't actually even have the machines to measure this, but here's how it goes. Imagine being the first guy to be like, if I shoot you way out, time and space bends like a blanket. Let me show you with this pool ball and a blanket. You'd be like, what the? What's with the gray-haired guy? All I'm thinking about is banging girls. And what's
well, that's
for
what
dinner?
he was in it too.
Well,
Einstein was kind of a pimp.
Picasso said a man does everything for women. He fights bulls. He does it all. He paints. Fuck it. He goes to war for women so he can look good and come back with a bunch of medals on his chest. I'm not saying that's the case with everybody.
It's amazing how guys like Einstein and guys like Nikola Tesla, they live amongst you and I. But they literally couldn't be any further from the type of person, especially you and I. You and I are like mirror images of each other. We always have been our whole lives. It's like when I first met Bryan, it was on Mad TV with his cup he's got right there. And I was like, who's this fucking guy who's just like me? That was like, immediately it was like, we were the same age. We were both ridiculous. We were both like, I can't believe I'm in fucking Hollywood. I'm on a TV show. I'd be like, I can't believe I'm on a fucking TV show either. Where are you from?
You know who I got along with really well? I just did a show of his and I really liked was Jay Moore. Jay Moore and I hit it off right away.
Yeah.
And he loves you. He was talking.
He's a great guy. He's an East Coast smart ass.
I felt so comfortable with the guy.
Yeah.
He looked at my ears and goes, "Did you wrestle?" I go, "Yeah." And he used to wrestle. I didn't know that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was a wrestler. He's funny, man. He kills me.
He's a funny guy, man. He's a
silly goose.
Yeah, he's a sort of a
we talked about you for a long time.
guy, sort of a comedian.
Yeah, he loves you.
A lot of comics don't like him because of that. They don't like that jockey sense of humor.
Fuck that. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he gets shit for that. I've heard that about him. Some comics don't like that whole Jay Moore style.
They should lift weights and take some testosterone and stop being fucking un-American because Jay Moore's a good American.
Un-American.
Joe, have you been following this marijuana thing that they just released the reports on the medical?
The federal government has declared there's no medical, I forget the wording, but no valid medical use for marijuana, which is just fucking ridiculous.
Whatever.
We have a friend that has a brother that has he's on the autism spectrum. I mean, he communicates with you. He's right there. He's present. But he's very, very shy. And you give this kid pot, and you can noticeably see him relax. And it's been known to alleviate a lot of the social anxiety and the weirdness that autistic people have in communicating.
I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen that very same example of somebody who is a high functioning autistic who would smoke weed and would literally become lucid.
Yeah.
And so, you can say what you want. It's a chemical that's going to affect your brain. Maybe some people it affects them negatively, other people it's going to affect them positively. If you're going to tell me that if you look at the amount of damage just in money terms, and by the way in lives, that alcohol does versus weed. One of the funniest and craziest things that make no sense is that weed's illegal, but alcohol is. I don't. Okay,
It's crazy.
I mean, it's
terrible for your
We're not
body.
the first person to talk about this, but yeah.
Yeah, well, exactly.
But I mean, it's an example of how slowly, in some ways, things change.
Yeah.
They change very slowly because when people get ideas are really what move and change everything in the world. And this goes back to these guys like Tesla. When you think about people who are thinking of truly seminal ideas, like some people sit around and they fucking just sit around and think like up new constructs. They change everything they change everything for the next 100 years. What a privilege. What an amazing accomplishment. Like, what an amazing accomplishment. I'm gonna come up with, I'm gonna change everybody in the world's paradigm. I'm going to change how you live the rest of your life. That's what it is.
Well, what these guys at the Large Hadron Collider are doing are literally changing our interface with reality. Yeah. I mean, they have a new kind of matter. You know, this quark gluon plasma shit that they came up with? One sugar cube is like 40 billion tons. Yeah. I mean, they're doing things that people have only theorized for the longest time, and it's never going to stop. This is what I tell people, and I joke around about this on stage, that we're here to make the Big Bang. And this is like a whole bit about the Large Hadron Collider that might be like the destiny of human beings to reset the universe. We will never stop. Whatever we learn from the Large Hadron Collider, we will apply to the next greater thing. Because and it's going to keep going on. And if we survive 100 years, the exponential increase of technology...
It's all exponential. You just used the word. It's exponential. It's exponential development.
It'll be beyond our imagination. Yeah. We cannot fathom a reality that would be so far removed from the one that we currently experience.
That's right. Exactly right.
From what I understand with that marijuana thing, though, this is actually the third time this has happened where the U.S. government has said, no, there's nothing good with this shit. But it's good for us because now we can take it to the courts or whatever, the federal court, and go against everything they say. So, like, if they say, no, this doesn't help headaches, we can, like, put the proof up, like, no, it does. Here's 5,000 scientists. So this is actually a good thing that they did this.
It's very obvious that the system is rigged. The only reason why people would be going after marijuana in this day and age, we're wasting any resources on something that kills nobody, is they're getting paid to do it. It's really simple. You have to follow the money. There's no money.
Anytime you pass any kind of law, a cottage industry grows up around it.
Oh, yeah.
That's all it is. There was an article, there was a big debate about ethanol today, and there's an ethanol lobby, and ethanol problem with ethanol, you got to grow a lot of corn, and it's not that efficient. It's not that economical. It's proven to be not. We got only 10 million cars on the road that actually are flex fuel compatible, which means basically 5% of the cars on the road right now in the United States, and yet you have a lobby, an ethanol lobby. You have 30 plants. Try getting rid of ethanol. Go ahead. Good luck.
The whole lobby thing, man, has always freaked me the fuck out, that that's legal and that no one ever says anything about it.
It's constitutional under this. The reason you have lobbyists, and you always have had lobbyists, is because in the Constitution you have the right to petition your government. The reason lobbying has become such a force, and the reason politicians essentially are beholden to the NRA and these kinds of people, is essentially because whenever you create, as the government becomes bigger and has more influence, which is what it's going to do as it grows, regardless of what side, right, left, it's not a right-left argument. If something like this gets bigger, you are going to have industry that is going to find a way to influence that power structure. How do you do it? You hire people who have contacts with the government. Either they work for the administration, whatever it might be. But that's what happens. So now you have a county like Potomac in Maryland, which is one of the richest. I think it's probably the third richest county in the world. Do you think they manufacture anything? No. You know what they are? They're all government lobbyists. Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
And when you try to go from Potomac to Washington, D.C., to the Capitol, you'll be in the car for about 2 hours, and it's about 20 miles away or whatever it is. It's a parking lot. Why? Because they're producing anything? Are they producing things you and I can use? Nah. You know what they're doing? It's a machine. It is a group of people from all different kinds of industries that live there 24/7 and do whatever they can to influence their congressman in their state. That's how it works, baby. Wow. And so when you start talking about government, understand, I've said this before, I always say it, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on, Government has two functions: to pass laws and to tax. Do you need laws and taxes? Absolutely. The question is always in political philosophy, how much do you need? Okay? And it seems to me that we're headed to a point where government's going to be 42% of GDP. I mean, government is taking over so much. So many people in this country are dependent on a government paycheck. That's not the American way.
No.
And I'll tell you something. It means you're a bureaucrat. It doesn't necessarily. Some people are doing good things. They're doing good things. But for the most part, a country grows when it produces things you and I need, whether it's intellectual ideas, physical products, and we export those things. And we need to stay the leader of innovation. Innovation and ideas is what it is. But when you have Potomac being that rich because they basically rely on the U.S. government, there's something fucking very wrong.
Very creepy that it just keeps going on and it never even gets mentioned.
Because it's very hard to stop.
To me, it's one of the two great things about politics that have always fascinated me. That's one, and two is cigarettes. The fact that no one ever brings up cigarettes. There's never a president that says we have to stop something that's killing literally almost 500,000 Americans.
You know what I love about that example you just used? In Health and Human Resources, there's a building in Washington where you can go down one floor and there is it's Health and Human Resources, or the Health Department, the Department of Health, and the Department of Health has a huge campaign to get people to stop smoking. And it's a good, noble program. You go up 3 flights from there, or whatever it is, but it's in the same building, and you have essentially the Department of Agriculture. You know what the Department of Agriculture does? It pays farmers to produce tobacco because it's called a subsidy. Interesting, isn't it? So you got one floor that's paying farmers to grow tobacco because they have a strong lobby. And then if you go down 3 floors, you've got the Department of Health, which is trying to get people to stop smoking. You find me one business in the world that behaves that way. But guess what? It's the U.S. government, baby. And that's how we work. And that's where your taxes go. Your taxes go to stopping people from smoking with big, big programs. And they go to getting farmers to grow more tobacco. That's what it's called. So it's called fucking madness.
It is madness.
And that's why if you don't educate yourself on how the government works and what the history of expansive government is, you're going to pay a price for it out of your pocketbook and with your freedom.
And doesn't it seem like as the economy corrodes and they start trying to add more and more government jobs, people don't want to resist this because it does provide some sort of a tangible boost in the economy. They've created 2 million jobs, but they don't tell you that these 2 million jobs are all census people.
Census takers.
Yeah, useless jobs.
Exactly.
Things that we don't need.
Exactly.
People, it's just...
Pay attention when you hear a politician talk. Pay attention to what they're really asking for. And it's a very, very interesting thing because and all of us would be guilty of this. With the nature of human beings, in my opinion, you look at history, is to try to control other people. I try to do it. I try to do it with people I love. I try to help them. I'm trying to control them. I tell them how to eat. I tell them it's my nature. I care about people. So what am I going to do? I'm going to try to get in there and I'm going to try to educate you according to my paradigm. Well, that's just my nature. I'll never be any different. The problem, the founding fathers knew that was part of human nature, and that's why they created checks and balances. That's why they created the nation. This nation was founded on the idea that you were self-reliant. If you're going to create alliances and stuff, they should be voluntary alliances, not government-mandated alliances, etc. And we're headed to a point where people are trying to solve problems, and that means I'm gonna pass a government mandate. I'm gonna make you do this.
Do you know how the tobacco lobby thing works? Do you know how they pay the farmers? The farmers get paid for their tobacco, plus they get paid to grow it. Is that how it goes?
They get paid to it. Look. Yes. Look.
It's just to make sure that
that's like every farm.
Let me give you another example. Do you think we need as much corn as we do? You think we need all that corn syrup? Do you think, in fact, why don't we grow sugar anymore? Because the corn lobby, I think it's Archer Daniel Midlands and etc. Have a very strong lobbying group. So they said, we want to grow corn. We have a lot of people that will be out of work if you don't subsidize our industry. You know how much money we give? We give alpaca farmers money every year. You ever worn anything with alpaca in it?
What's
no,
alpaca?
You haven't. I'm
glad
you asked. Yeah, it's an animal. And what happened was during the Korean War, we decided to make uniforms out of alpaca, an alpaca blend, because they would be warmer because Korea is very fucking cold. But guess what? Those farmers, they're still getting paid to grow alpacas, to herd alpacas, and you pay for it. Now it might be 0.1% out of your paycheck, but That's what goes on with the government. That's what farming subsidies are about. Yeah. We pay people to produce butter. We have a lot of food.
What was that? Country. What was that? Huh? You just went.
No, I said yeah. Yeah. I'm just saying, like, if you have a farm, you get money. So.
Is it every crop? They subsidize every crop the way they subsidize tobacco?
I don't know all the details, but Fareed Zakaria wrote a really good book about all this stuff that you should read him. He's smart.
What's it called?
I believe it's called The History of Freedom. And I read some excerpts of it. It was unbelievable.
There's no way to stop the lobby system at this point, though, is there? I mean, is there? No one's gonna. There accept.
Is. There absolutely is. In fact, I would argue that there's a huge movement to bring government on both sides of the aisle, to bring government into a manageable, to make it smaller. I mean, every time
but that's like the Ron Paul dogma, but nobody takes it seriously.
Actually, every time you hear a politician now who wants to get reelected, they all have to justify their spending. And let me tell you something: we are in dire. I mean, a lot of government programs are being cut. Now, the whole Tea Party movement, which is a formidable movement in some ways, and Michelle Bachmann and these guys, their platform is basically like, no matter what you say, the government's too big. Now, I have some issues with those guys, but I'm just saying that at the end of the day, they gained that much traction because they said, what the hell's going on here?
Michelle Bachmann is one of two things. Either she's the bringer of the apocalypse, or she's someone hired by the Democrats to completely discredit the Republicans, because she's at the helm right now. She's at the front of the movement.
I did a little research on her.
How about her gay husband?
I don't know anything about
Gay as fuck.
Really?
Dave Foley turned me on to it. You got to watch the guy talk. It's fantastic.
She's been married 35
We've talked
years
about him on the podcast. He's one of those guys that cures people being gay.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
no.
Yeah.
Oh, he's gay as fuck.
Oh, boy.
You just hear him talk, and you can't hold the gay back.
See, I have a huge problem with that.
You ever call customer service somewhere and you know you're talking to a black guy? Yeah, that's how gay he is. And I'm not saying that every black guy talks like that, but there are certain black guys that, man, you call the guy up on the phone, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but you're talking to a black guy. This guy is one of those guys you hear him talking and you go, that's a gay guy. Yeah. There's no doubt about it. And he talks about barbarians and gay people being barbarians.
Really?
And we need to tell them that this kind of behavior is just not acceptable.
Oh, what an asshole. What an asshole.
Suck and cock at prayer retreats and just can't wait.
Self-loathing. He's got self-loathing.
And he's married.
I can't stand hypocrites. I can't stand people like that.
She wants to get rid of all porn, too, which is hilarious, because then the rapes would go through the fucking roof. That's one thing they've realized, and one thing they actually believe could help child pornography, could actually help child molesters not have sex with children. It's a terrible idea.
I'd like to see the test studies on that.
Scientifically, though, they're proposing that this actually could be a possibility, because it's a terrible idea, but you obviously could never do it because those kids in those videos are victims. But regular pornography has been shown to curb rape. Regular pornography in other countries is accepted, in Japan especially, that pornography and even violent things actually keep people from acting out.
There have been a lot of psychological studies about the fact that, movies like Saw and stuff, there are less maniacs out there actually doing it because they can simulate, they can see it being done and get off on it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and they think they believe this about pornography as well. Like pornography actually curbs rape.
I hope
it totally makes sense.
I hope it does.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be some reason for it, and that doesn't make sense. I mean, there doesn't have to be some reason for it, but I think the way the world moves.
You're trying to outlaw pornography. I want to make my own choices. I'm a fucking adult.
Yeah.
What are you? I mean, the Nazis were very good at totalitarianism, at controlling the total person, too. That's tyranny. It's a form of tyranny when people start talking that way.
Well, not only that, it's only people
You want to cure
fucking
gay people? Fucking worry about your own kitchen, asshole. I never had a gay person come in and fuck up my whole. What are they fucking up my family unit with their presence? Is that how weak my family unit bond is? Are they tempting me with their cocks? Shut up. Yeah, they are actually. Sorry, I just popped out. I'm high.
Yeah, dude, I'm with you. I'm with you on the whole rant.
Leave me alone,
there's a bunch of people in this country though that don't think that way. That's one of the things about this world is that there's people in this life that are at various stages of awakening, and I'm not claiming to be any enlightened being, but there's people that have the benefit of having more free time, more open-minded friends, live in a better geographic environment where people think a little clearer.
I'm very open-minded.
There's a lot of people, though, in certain spots of this country alone, and forget about the rest of the world, but certain spots of this country, they were just in some fucked spot. The spot they're at is just filled with dummies.
I also think that there's a lot of social pressure to stay stay the course. You know, I think it goes back to kind of keeping like the breeding instinct. I was thinking about this. I was trying to write
stay the course. You say you mean like as far as like Christian values.
Have you ever noticed how if a guy in a
style.
working class neighborhood of Boston walks in with bangles and earrings and eyeshadow, he gets beaten up? Why?
Yeah.
Why is that though? Why? I have a theory about
he's a
it.
queer.
Yeah, but why?
More
But why?
monkey.
Remember, like Dov Davidoff used this thing when he was in Jersey, and he'd go to school, and his mom would pack pita bread, and he'd get the shit kicked out of him because he's eating pita bread. He's like, "Hey, Ma, you know, give me white bread because I know pita's good for me, but it's not good for me when I get my fucking teeth knocked in for being a communist because I'm eating pita bread, right?"
It's hilarious.
But why? And I have a theory on it. Men, if you look at like how men developed, like men are really good in groups. They delineate authority very quickly. They work well. They're very organized. They like hierarchy. They don't talk a lot. If they have a job to do, they get it done. Think about like, you know, when they're like when you're hunting, it goes back to hunting. When you got to hunt a deer, you're using hand signals. You're not talking. You'll scare the deer away. So you get into this whole sort of, you know, very organized. You become one unit, a machine. Women don't bond that way. They tend to talk and they bond verbally. Men actually don't. Men bond. If you take boys and you take a ball and throw it in the middle of a bunch of boys who don't know each other, they'll become friends around that ball because they start playing a game and they break up into teams and they compete. They have to rely on each other and they get very good and they do it right away. It's how you can get boys to be friends. Girls don't make friends that way. Girls have to make friends over a period of time through experience.
They have to talk shit about some other girl.
That's exactly right. That's why when you adopt a child, if she's a girl and she's a little older and you put her in a new school, she has a much harder time making friends than a boy does when he's just, you know, around, you know, because you can just put when he's around fucking balls.
Yeah, boys can make friends with boys quicker than probably girls can make friends with girls.
Yeah.
You think that? I wouldn't think that though, because girls are friendlier.
No, but
boys try to beat your ass when you move into town.
Yeah, but I think the reason that somebody gets beaten up when they show up with all this decoration is because you can't go hunting with somebody with jewelry on. It makes too much fucking noise. If he's walking around with his bangles like clang clang, my fucking deer are gone. If you're shiny and you got glitter on, why don't guys wear glitter and shiny shit?
Okay, what if he's just got a tight
shirt
shirt and a bow tie and skinny jeans?
Well,
you're still going to want to beat him up, and that's pretty
up.
sleek for the woods.
I think that might also be this. That might also be you're trying to get the girls. You're not working with us. You're fucking showing off your tits and ass, and you didn't get permission from us, motherfucker.
So
don't walk in like you can't walk in like the King Peacock. Because then guys are going to be like, that guy's a fucking peacock, and I guess he thinks he's a tough guy because he's showing me his muscles, which is an affront to me. You're preening.
But what if he's really skinny and he's got no muscles?
Well,
it's like, you know,
if he can
some
play
guys.
the guitar, he's fine.
Like if a guy like you wears a tank top, of course it's imposing.
Thank you.
But you know, if some guys wear tank tops, like a real skinny guy, you know, like Chris Rock wears a tank top, you know, it's not scary.
Well, I don't think that's the guy that gets beaten up at the bar. I think the guy that wears a tank top and he's all rocked out and he walks in. There are a lot of guys like do that with Mayhem when he's got a couple drinks. I'm sure Mayhem would be like, "Hey, this guy."
You know what Mayhem would do?
Him.
He would just hold on to you for 15 seconds until you're out of breath. And that's all it would take. Especially for some juice head.
Oh my God.
You just gotta hang on. It's a ride. You got a 15-second ride. And at the end of that ride it's and then he can't push you
off. That's like my buddy. Remember my buddy Bob Williams at Austin, that strong man who's a fucking maniac?
Yeah.
And he's so fucking strong. He's so weird strong. And he'd always go up to the guys in Golds and he'd be like, "What's up, Needles? How you doing?" Guy'd be like, "Excuse me?" He'd go, Needles. He'd call him Needles. God. And he just wanted a little like, let me just squeeze you till you die.
He was a wrestler, right?
Yeah, since he was 7.
Yeah.
With chimpanzee. I call him the human chimp.
He had one of the best lines ever. Tell the story about the guy who was fucking with him while he was surfing.
Yeah, it's the best. He's on a surfboard and his buddies with him, and these fucking dudes come up, these Malibu locals with like tattoos on their neck, rough guys, and they look at Bob and they go, "Hey, bro, get the fuck off our wave right now." And Bob goes, "What?" And he does this thing where you have to know him. He's got like kind of an eye loose. He's like, "What?" And he looks like JFK Jr. He's got like the really thick hair in his eyes, like a real good-looking guy. And they go, get the fuck off our wave, or we'll kick your fucking ass." And so Bob's like, you got to know, he's like really loose. He never gets afraid of anything. He goes like this. He goes, "Yeah, hey, how long can you hold your breath?" And the guy goes, "What?" He goes, "How long can you hold your breath? Because I can hold my breath for over 4 minutes. So I could jump off this board, I grab you by the hair, I bring you to the bottom, we take a little nap, and you just fucking die. And then I come for you." And they were like, fuck this. They fucking battle. And he's got these huge hands. And when he takes his shirt off,
You can't really do anything about that either. Like if they couldn't help him.
Oh, dude.
They would have to pull him off. They would be underwater. They would probably
eyes,
panic.
No, you look into his eyes. It's like they had a great white sighting out in Malibu, and he's like, "I'm going surfing." They go, "Dude, they have the great white is out there. They had a seal in its mouth." He's like, "Shut the fuck up! I'll punch a great white in his fucking face." He literally, he's like, "They won't eat me." I go, "What do you mean they won't eat me?" He goes, "They smell it on me. They're not going to eat
Get
me."
the fuck
That's
out
what
of
he
here.
says.
Well, that's a good way to lose your life.
I know. He's
He's just been
maniac.
lucky.
He's
When
a
did they
maniac.
spot a great white in Malibu? Is that recently?
Oh yeah, there was a great white, 200 feet off the shore with a seal in its mouth.
Holy shit!
And everybody's like, "Holy shit!" And the fucking shark expert was like, "Hey guys, they've always been out there. They're always swimming under you. That's their breeding ground. They eat seal there. They're there all the fucking time. So all you guys who think there are no sharks in that water, there are great whites swimming under you all the time.
my
but you're just not food to them. They'd rather eat a seal."
Oh, you're so lucky.
Fucking David Blaine. David Blaine came to my house, and I said he wanted to cross the ocean in a bottle. Oh shit! I hope. Fuck, David. Sorry if I. Fuck. I don't think he can do it. Anyway,
It's magic, man.
He wanted to do this
He's
experiment.
standing on ice forever.
Literally, he wanted to do that. He wanted to go. So he's
Right.
into these, and so he goes. But I said, "Aren't you afraid of sharks?" So they were talking about how whales, orcas, if you're in a glass boat, sometimes they'll crash through it, and they don't know why.
Whoa.
And a guy died that way. So he was like, "Yeah, that's the problem." And I said, "Aren't you afraid of fucking sharks like great whites?" And he goes, "Oh, you didn't see my video?" I go, "No." And he goes, "Oh, dude, I'm not afraid of them at all." So I go, "What?" On his iPhone, he's in a fuck. I don't know if I can say this though because it might
Too
be
late.
part of his.
Say it. Fuck him. Fuck David Blaine.
No, he's my
I wouldn't
buddy.
do it.
Hold on. Yeah.
Say it.
No, because I don't want to screw up his special. But
Well, listen, you don't want to screw up this Ustream show with 2,000 people watching.
yeah, you fuckers. Anyway,
2,659.
I gotta get permission from him. Anyway, the point is he's swimming with great whites, and all I can say, I don't want to ruin anything, but he's basically without any protection at all, slowing his heart rate down, and just in the middle of the ocean with a weight belt on, floating, no oxygen, no nothing, holding his breath, while huge great whites go by him, and all he can see is shadows.
What?
Yeah, that's David Blaine. He's not.
That's
afraid
not
of
magical,
shit.
though.
No, it's not.
Not magical. He's
Sorry,
a
David, I
weird
hope
guy.
I've known him since he was 17.
I think he's very
Really?
fascinating in that he's made this living doing these endurance things.
He's
he's
you know why? He's always been David. His mother was Jewish, and so he was always obsessed with the Holocaust. But also, his mother died very, very painfully and slowly of cancer. And when I met him, she was going through this terrible time, and it was very hard for him. And he became obsessed with suffering and with how to suffer with dignity, how to overcome. In my opinion, I'm speaking for him, but we've talked a little bit about it. But David's read so much about the Holocaust and so much about Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl and those kind of guys. He's obsessed with the notion of how one deals with all the suffering in the world. He's got a huge heart.
So his fascination has led him into dealing with adverse situations, like really bizarre situations, standing in that ice cube. Remember?
Yeah, he broke the world record for holding his breath. That's true. He did a TED lecture on it. He goes, he was trying to figure out a way to do the trick where he held his breath, and he goes, the craziest thing is if I actually did it, and he fucking did it. Held his breath on Oprah for 17 minutes.
What?
17 fucking minutes. He's got the world record. Oh,
17 minutes?
17 minutes. He really
I've never
did
even
it.
heard of that before.
He held his breath for 7. He can slow his heart rate down. He's amazing.
Holy shit.
That dude's no joke. I can't believe you don't know him. He's a very special guy.
That's incredible.
I always thought that he edited his magic shit.
I think you're
like
confusing
if you
with Chris Angel.
Let me tell you
duh.
something.
You're right.
He's so
Never
far
mind. My
from
bad.
Chris Angel.
Chris
It's crazy.
Angel.
Yeah, Chris Angel's like a silly.
Angel's
he's a
annoying.
big silly
Look,
face.
David's been offered more money than you can fucking imagine to do shit, and he just won't do it. When he did that thing for Target, he was like making no money for his magic tricks because he wouldn't let anybody sponsor him. And so when he did that thing for Target, he said, "I'll do this, but you guys have to. I'll do this magic trick if you want to sponsor me, but forget money from me. You guys have to. I want you to do. You have to let really poor children have a total shopping spree in all your stores." So he's like he's really somebody who cares a lot and he gives.
Why do so many people hate him?
Because they don't know him.
Is that what it is?
Because he's a stud, and because the same
David
reason
Blaine?
people just.
I don't think people hate David Blaine. I think people hate Chris Angel.
No,
I hate Chris Angel.
People definitely hate Chris Angel as well.
Because they probably the people don't like to be fooled. People
No,
feel
but
like
it's no
something's
fool.
going
There's
on.
no fooling them though, because he's just doing these endurance stunts. He's a weird guy in that he's known as David Blaine the magician,
Yeah.
but everything he does is just like this weird physical feat. He's like a Houdini type character.
Yeah,
you know?
he was like when I knew him when he was 17, he was obsessed with Houdini. He just thought Houdini. He's always been obsessed with it.
Yeah,
and
but
amazed by
it's
that.
a kind of a shame that he's a magician, because they are like world events when he does something
Yeah.
nutty.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. Like it or not, they are world events. Like what did he do in London where he lived on a platform or some shit?
Yeah.
What the fuck did he do?
Yeah, in a box suspended
Yeah.
in a bridge.
Yeah.
But he's always been obsessed with this notion that how can I deal with if you shave my head and throw me in a corner with a bowl of gruel in a concentration camp? How can I suffer with dignity? How would I be the best sufferer? How would I deal with that? And he's obsessed
What
with
did he
that.
do to go to the bathroom when he was up in that box?
I don't know.
Well, first of all, he was drinking and eating very little, but I think he had a thing that he would go to the bathroom in. I guess I don't know.
Like a bucket?
Yeah.
You have to do it when everybody's asleep?
Yeah, I guess.
You're only allowed to pee
I
at
guess
night?
so, huh? But although it was a clear plastic box, that he was just sitting there.
There should be like some YouTube video of him pooping then, right?
I think if I remember, I think they did. They
Beating
put
off? Did
I
he
think
beat
they
off
put
of
like
that?
a towel around it when he had to go to the bathroom. and
Oh,
stuff like that.
right.
If I remember, that's how they did it.
How long was he in that box for?
I don't know,
forget.
like 18 days.
Have you ever been to the Magic Castle?
Never.
I
got a friend
wanting
who
to
I
go.
did jujitsu with too, is a magician.
Really?
Yeah, he's always inviting me, but you gotta wear a jacket.
You do?
I know.
I wanna go.
went-
I heard
went there
it's
one time,
cool.
They're like, sir, you
I'm
need a
wearing
jacket. I was like,
Get out of here with your
heard it's
stupid
really cool.
fucking outfit I have to wear. He seems so dorky. Why can't I just wear a nice shirt?
Right.
I have to wear a jacket, really?
I like the way you wear for the UFC. You always just kind of put on a black shirt. Or,
Yeah.
Well,
same-
Affliction pays me to wear their shirts, so I wear
okay.
a black Affliction shirt every time.
Is
But
that Affliction right now?
this one?
Yeah.
This is Jiu-Jitsu, my friend. This is Elio Grace.
Hello,
Elio
Grace.
Grace, this is the Godfather.
I didn't know.
You don't
But
know, brother?
Yeah.
Brian needs some Jiu-Jitsu in your life, doesn't he?
no,
I really do.
There's a man who's screaming out for Jiu-Jitsu.
You
This
gotta,
Brian.
You got to do a little rolling. But you got to actually kind of build for it. You got some shoulders on you.
No. He doesn't
Thick
want to do
neck.
it. It's not that guy. You're that guy, though, aren't
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
I miss wrestling.
Why don't you go back in?
I'm going to.
You had a bad concussion, right? Tell that
Yeah,
story. That's a
yeah.
pretty crazy story.
I just had this war with this kid Pascal, and Boom Boom Mancini was watching me, and I wasn't going to give up. And we wrestled at Street Sports, Renato Magnus School, which is a great school. He's a great guy, and we rolled and rolled and rolled. It was probably like 40 minutes, and nobody won. It was like to a draw. The next day, I felt like my hands, like I felt like I was holding a hot snowball in my hands, and I couldn't see very well. It was all things were just, my perception was all messed up. And I went to the doctor, and I did a CAT scan and stuff, and the guy said, you just got a concussion. But for about 6 months after that, I would have these weird sensations in my hands because I neurologically did something because I'd hit my head. It was such a fight. You don't want to lose, and you go a little too crazy. And
Concussions are scary things, man. People take that shit real lightly. I have friends, like I got a friend who got hit in the head by a golf ball. He said he was not the same person for 6 months.
No, in college, I got kicked by 4 guys on the ground. And I remember just being truly cloudy for 5 days. It was just so cloudy. I just got my head kicked in. I was in a like, but have you ever had that done to you, man? It's really weird because it's exactly what your sock feels like in a dryer. I couldn't do anything.
You know about Bill Romanowski, the football
Yeah.
player?
Oh,
you
I
know
know
that
about-
he had over 20 concussions, and he created a bunch of brain supplements. He's got this stuff called Neuro One. I've taken it before. It's pretty fucking strong shit. It's really good, like for concentration and shit like that. It's basically caffeine and a bunch of different brain stimulants. But I mean, this guy has
Romanowski was a monster, man. When
he's
played.
tried very hard to try to kind of balance out all the impacts that he's had.
Very tough though, that kind of trauma.
20 concussions.
Well, because
man.
it creates pugilistic dementia. I mean,
Yeah.
those guys their brains shrink. And
That's something. I mean, it's amazing they're just realizing this over the last few decades too. I mean, everybody knew that football players got beat up, and nobody ever kind of put.
Football is so beyond rough. The injury rate is 100%. It's not 95. It's 100%. You play with pain in the NFL. That's why people talk about this guy's really tough. They're great athletes. Play football. Go run a fucking football back in the NFL. Good luck.
Yeah, those are the super athletes, man. Those are the elite of the elite.
Freaks.
What's really crazy is that I read that some ridiculous number, like after 2 years of retirement, 80% of NFL players file for bankruptcy and 60% of NBA players.
We talked about that last time.
How fucking
And within
incredible
5
is
years
that?
of leaving the NBA and the NFL, 60% of football players file for bankruptcy. Because nobody's there to tell them, hey, dude, football is different. Don't spend your money.
Nobody's there to tell them that, and the fact that they've been compromised by all these impacts. It's got to make them more impulsive, affect their judgment, affect how they behave.
I think you're already dealing with a high testosterone, fun-loving, kind of rough, forward-tilted group. And these guys are the wolves. They're the alpha dogs. They come in, and everybody else is a fucking hen with those guys. You ever see like a team of real football players come in? You're like, oh,
they're savages.
Jesus. It's like when I was in Afghanistan, and I caught a glimpse of a group of guys who walked by me with beards and long hair, and I was like, "Who are those guys? The really muscular guys, the guys who are not saying anything with no badges. That's the dark side. That's who that is." I was like, "Oh, those are the real elites. That's why I smell gunmetal and death on them." I was like,
"Are they like mercenaries?"
No, just Delta guys, or those guys,
right.
Those real elite, like SEAL Team 6, whoever they weren't talking to me.
Yeah, what a strange way to go and live your life, to commit to being one of the most disciplined, hardened, well-trained, fighting, killing machines in the world.
My buddy hangs with those guys in Afghanistan, and he works with them, and I said, what delineates a Delta Force guy from like a regular, like a SEAL team or a regular guy? And he said, they're exact. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, they're just exact. They're amazing shots. They're good at everything, but they're just really good at everything, like exactly well-rounded. Well,
there's a place for everybody in this world. And there's a place for someone to be a guy who makes pottery, and there's a place for Picasso, and there's a place for fucking killers, man.
That's right.
I mean, long as we're allowing war, war seems to be legal, the president seemed to, I believe, celebrate that we had just murdered a bad guy.
That's right.
I mean, that's what the whole Osama bin Laden thing is.
I love that they came in, the guy shot him above the eye, and then took a picture and sent it back to their computer, the facial recognition program. So, like, ready? Your girl's coming at me. In the leg. Get out of the way. Like that. In the head. In case you got a suicide belt. Oh, hold on. Let me take out my Polaroid. And now let me just fax it. Let me scan this and send it back to the White House. Here you go, guys. Let's take this picture. Let's run it through the facial recognition there. Yeah, it's him. It's him.
Do you 100% believe the story, though?
Yes, I do. You know why? There were 70 people involved. I have to pee.
70?
Yeah, 70 commandos
go
and a dog.
We'll run back.
So
and
good
talk
luck
about
trying
this.
to cover that up.
In the meantime, I'll talk
move.
about Jessica Lynch, where they tried to pretend there was a gun shootout, and she was actually just in a hospital. Go make your pee-pee, bro. We're going to talk about Pat Tillman, too. Conspiracies. Brian's not buying them. Brian is my most Fox News-like friend.
Did you see the new footage of, I think it was World Trade Center footage?
Oh, yeah, I did see from the one reporter's perspective.
Yeah, that shows a completely different, I mean, that shit looked like it was just sitting there fucking melting. Like
What, the building?
The building.
Tower
it was,
7?
The noises it was making. It just,
totally. It did. Look, I've always said that Tower 7 looks ridiculous. It looks like a controlled demolition, but what the fuck do I know? I'm not an engineer. It might have looked like a controlled demolition just because of the very bizarre way in which it was injured, that it like was injured on the bottom floors, and that's what gave in first, and everything pancaked down. Right. It's very possible. What the fuck do I know? But it does look like a controlled demolition. But that video what I thought was most fascinating was all the buildings or the cars outside that had been blown up and on fire. Like, I didn't realize that had happened. I kind of like thought that, of course, everything fell and collapsed, but I thought there was probably like just this massive pile of debris. I didn't realize that all these cars were like had been lit on fire and
jet
exploded.
fuel and everything just kind of fell down into the streets.
Is that what it was?
Yeah. That's what when the airplane hit, it just fucking fire and shit.
When Brian comes back, he's got a crazy fucking story of his buddy that was a actual a Wall Street guy. He was a stockbroker, and he was there while it all happened, and he heard sounds that sounded like car accidents. Just bam, bam. And then he realized, tell the story about your friend who had heard those sounds. He was at September 11th, heard those sounds that sounded like car accidents, and then realized what they were.
Yeah, well, that's what, there was this, and in fact, there's a documentary that captured it, by the way. But yeah, he just started hearing like these like two cars ramming into each other at 40 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour, and it turned out it was the bodies hitting the pavement, hitting the ground.
How many people do you think jumped?
They don't really. They probably have that figure, but a lot.
Yeah.
Because what happened was it got so hot, and rather than burn, you jumped. And some people held hands. Some people formed rings.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that. Holy shit! What a way to go, huh?
It's a way to go, man. It's
quick.
Yeah, I don't know. You fall for a long time.
God damn, that has to be horrifying.
Yeah, I'm afraid of heights, so I parachuted
That is
once and it sucked.
saying you're afraid of
God,
heights.
really?
That is beyond afraid of heights.
Well, you know,
100
it's like,
stories?
It's like you know, Jimmy Burke knows. Jimmy Burke knows a certain somebody who was terrified of flying. She was seeing a therapist for it, and she finally worked up the courage to get on a plane and fly, and the plane broke in half in the middle of the air. It broke in half on takeoff, so she fell backwards in a half a plane, and you're probably alive for a little while when your plane breaks in half. That's not fun. That's you're
What if
going.
the secret is real and she manifested that, man?
Hello.
Or maybe she was a psychic and she predicted her own demise.
Perhaps.
Maybe she knew her timeline was
But
troubled.
it raises a question. What's the way you'd want to die?
I'd want to die with a mask on in an orgy.
I'm glad you brought that up because it reminds me of a story I experienced.
It's a story that Brian was telling me yesterday that was so good. I said, stop talking.
Yeah.
Stop talking and tell me this tomorrow.
Well, you know, look.
You can't tell the names involved.
I can't tell the names. There was
but
a celebrity involved.
This is
But
a very significant celebrity.
Yeah.
When we were growing up, this celebrity was a big star.
yes. And I tell you, it's
Can you
funny.
say whether or not they were a part of a...
No, we cannot. We cannot say anything else.
Telly Savalas?
No. But
a handsome young man.
but
Can
there-
you say whether he was a music star, a movie star?
I'm not allowed to say anything,
you
but
say
he
a
was a
movie star?
celebrity. He was a celebrity. Let's just
Okay.
put it that way. And the reason I don't want to say anything is because it was a private thing. I mean, I admire the guy actually for doing what he did. But
Okay, so tell us what happened.
well, you know, in life, I've
this
always
is many,
said,
many moons ago.
It's many moons ago. Many moons ago. At least I think 6 years ago or something. And I was single. And there are things certain guys want to do. You know, you want to, like I always say this, you want to stop a crime, you want to kill somebody with a sword, you want to fucking, you know, and then you want to bang 6 girls at the same time. I mean, that's one of my goals.
6.
Well, I'm driving.
How much penis do you have?
I do well, and I'll show you after the story. But I'm driving to Venice. I get a call from a girl I used to bang who was a freak, wonderful. I mean, a real Vegas pro. So she gives me a call and she goes, "What are you doing?" And I go, "I'm driving to Venice." She goes, "Get your ass up to this hotel." And it was let's just call it the Sheraton. She goes, "Get your ass to the Sheraton right now. We got 6 girls and only 2 cocks. We need you now." So I'm like,
Wow.
nah, I got an audition for Sidney Pollack the next day,
Fuck Sydney.
which I did, right. And I'm like,
Is that Jackson Pollock's brother?
Yes, it is. Yes, the painter. And I go, I gotta go to fucking. I can't do this. I can't. You know, I'm going on my way to. Now, the only thing you can do in that situation is just faint. Otherwise, just faint, because or die there, or pull over and sleep and wake up in the morning. Because any other movement is going to bring you toward 6 hot girls. Because I knew the kind of girls she hung out with. I'm going. You mean there's a fucking suite in the Sheraton?
Before you tell the story,
Yeah.
before you even go any further,
Yeah.
you decided to tell this story recently at the UCB.
I told the story at the UCB podcast, and it was interesting because they're all a very nice group and very funny and talented group of people, but they've probably not lived the kind of sexual deviancy that I have gone through, you know? And so I just feel that. They just seem like wholesome, good people, you know, that don't have just this deep, dark matter living inside their... And so I got up and told this story that I'm about to tell you guys about. Essentially, my experience in a fucking orgy, and
What made you want to tell this? At
I
the
just
UCB?
was like, I fucking want to tell the truth about who I really am. I just felt like going up and going, "Hey, these are really cute stories, you guys. Now let me tell you what a fucking deviant I really am." You know,
But you didn't think they were cute stories.
I mean, I didn't really listen. I didn't listen that hard, but I know the people involved are funny. I mean, a lot of them.
But
like
something-
Moishe, the stand-up comic Moishe is funny as shit. He's funny. He's got a great sense of humor. And the other guys, I haven't seen a lot of their work, but UCB puts out some pretty badass comics. I mean, it's funny fucking people. Like Amy Poehler came out of there, and great people.
And so they're telling their stories, and for whatever reason, you decided to take it
just
down
like-
pervert lane and
that's
tell
right.
a
That's
story that you never even told me.
I've never told anybody because I mean, it's just like I was like, I want to tell something that's a little outrageous because I don't want any secrets in my fucking life. I just want to be fucking out there, and I don't give a fuck. I don't care what other people think. I care what my friends think, you know, and my friends all know exactly who the fuck I am. All my friends know who I am.
There's so much freedom in that.
But there's always freedom in that. I'm not good at keeping a facade up. So I tell this story. So I'm driving and I hang on. My first impulse, I can't do it. Now I had listened, there was this thing where you might have told me, Joe, but we were talking about a woman who's dying of cancer. And they said, if you could do it all over again, what would you do? And she said, I wouldn't do anything because it made sense. And I was thinking about that when I got this phone call. I was thinking, you know, I want to do, you know, you got to live your life sometimes and you got to have experiences and you got to fucking do something that kind of shocks and astonishes yourself. And by the way, you don't know a guy out there who wouldn't want to fuck 6 girls at the same time. So I hear that, but I'm driving and my first impulse, I got to go get it. I got to study my audition. I got an audition tomorrow. But now I'm thinking, holy fuck, these girls out there. Oh, you know what I'll do? I'm going to drive. If I see a 7-Eleven, I'll stop and get condoms. It doesn't mean I'm going there. I'm not turning the car around, but I'm going to stop. And maybe if I get another call, then I'll get some... Oh, look, a 7-Eleven. I'm going to pull off, but I'm definitely not going to the Sheraton. There's no way. I pull off and I go, oh, you guys have any condoms? Buy condoms. Phone rings again. Where the fuck are you?
So while this is going on, you're basically like a junkie that someone's saying, come on, let's do some blow.
I'm not basically like a junkie. I am a junkie. All right? There's no difference.
It is, but that feeling when you're about to do something really deviant is junkie
my
feeling.
My heart's beating fast.
Oh, yeah.
And I can't
Sweaty
get it out of my
hands.
mind. I keep going back to it.
Yeah.
I keep trying to put it out of my mind, and I'm losing, man. I'm losing the battle. I'm getting pulled under. They're adding more and more weight, and I'm trying to keep up. I'm like, I can't go underwater. I keep doing this. I'm treading water, but they're just adding weights to my legs with the imagery. I'm thinking about these girls. Long story short, I go, fuck it. I find myself at the Sheraton. I go up to the suite. I get met at the door by my girl. She's wearing a mask, and she gives me a porcelain doll mask to put on. So I go, oh. And then she gives me a strip of paper with the rules of the game, which is that this is a birthday girl, and I am fucking, the only rule is I can't hit or spit. I'm like, okay. I wasn't planning on hitting and spitting these girls. I'm going to fuck them. You know?
Whoa. Is this stuff written down? Is it printed?
It's
is it written?
Typed on a very neat strip of paper.
Wow.
So this is well organized.
So everyone has a sheet?
I walk in, and I go, and I see fucking 4 of the hottest girls I've ever seen. One girl's getting banged on the bed by some muscular dude. And then there's a dude who's kind of just standing off to the side, not doing anything, with like a shaved chest. And I'm like, I don't like that guy. He's weird. He fucking looks all bloated. He's just like been lifting a lot of weights and never did a sport in his life. I'm like, whatever, shaved chest, orange. He was orange with a shaved chest and some weird mask. I was like, all right. Then I look at myself.
And everyone's naked?
Dude, yeah. And guess what? She goes, you got to take your clothes off right now. You got to get no clothes. So she starts peeling my pants off. She gets on her knees and starts to work me. And as I'm getting worked by my old girlfriend, I got this porcelain doll mask on. I look in the mirror and I look at my fucking doll mask and I go, this is the first thought, literally. Not that my dick is getting sucked. I go, that's weird. My fucking doll mask is as white as my legs. I got to start tanning. That's gross. I'm like, I'm fucking gross. And this one girl goes, yeah, you with the white skin and that doll mask and a heart on, that's not creepy. I'm like, oh, yeah, hey, whatever. So this really hot girl, who turns out to be the birthday girl, who happens to be the celebrity's wife, she gets down on her knees, and I get pushed over to her, and now I'm getting worked by her. But the thing is, she's really fucking good at it, and I go, I'm gonna go. I'm not a porn star. When a girl as hot as blowing me with a mask on, and I'm totally anonymous with a mask on my face, I'm fucking gonna come. And plus, I gotta come because I got an audition tomorrow, so I want to get in and out. So I'm like, oh, and I go, I'm gonna fucking, you keep doing it, I'm gonna come. And the guy goes, and I hear, you're gonna come? And I look over, and it's a guy. I'm like, I think I recognize that guy. I know him from somewhere, but whatever. He goes, hold on. Shoot. And a video camera comes out, and it's right on the girl. And I'm like, oh, really? All right, I guess this is what it's like to do porn. Oh, my knees lock up, and which, by the way, I never lock
in her mouth or her face. Where?
In her mouth, my friend. Yeah.
And the husband is filming this.
He films that. And yeah, and then I hope I don't ever have to do a Disney show because I'm fucked. I'm fucked.
This is all fiction.
This is all fiction, but this is part of my fictional story that I'm doing for.
Okay, so it's a on stage one man show.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So now I. By the way, I'm speaking. This actually happened to a friend, and I'm speaking in. I'm telling the story of this. What happened?
Okay, we've got enough disclaimers.
Yeah. I'm just telling.
We got like 3 of them now.
Yeah, this happened to my friend.
Yeah. Okay.
And so now I go, oh shit, I just lost it. Good, I can get the fuck out of here because this is a freak show, and I don't belong here. And I got an orange guy in the corner with half a heart on, and another dude banging a girl on the bed, and I got, I'm like, I got to get the fuck out of here. But you know what? I had an experience. I'm gonna go, and I can go make my Sidney Pollock audition. So I'm putting on my pants and I'm about to leave. I'm sneaking out, and all of a sudden this 10 with a mask comes up and she goes, "You're not gonna fuck me?" And I go, oh. I mean, I was gonna go. I have and I almost said audition, but I didn't even want her to know I was an actor. I'm like, she goes, "You're not gonna fuck me?" And she turns around and I go, I mean, I don't want to be rude. Maybe I should fuck you. So next thing I know, my pants are coming off, and that's it. Now I'm in the belly of the beast. Now, I'm just seeing fucking red, and I'm just going fucking crazy. They're like, this guy's outrageous. I was appalling. My energy level.
Noises.
Well, I gave it up. At this point, I'm like, I'm fucking going. Now, you know
are the other people grunting, or is everyone kind of being silent?
Done, bro. They were kind of done.
Oh no! Yeah, so everybody's gone, and you're going in for second.
I'm going in for seconds,
and everybody else quit.
They kind of quit, and the girls are just there.
Bro. They're not athletic like you.
And not to be a dick, but my dick was a little bigger than these guys. They weren't doing so well. So I'm just fucking going crazy. I'm like, look at this shit. I'll go and I'll switch off. Why not? Hey, free country, whatever. Fuck you, America. And I'm going nuts. And now I fucking get to a point where I'm now the girl who's the birthday girl goes, I want some of this, and she says, don't use him up. To the girl that I'm going crazy on, she pushes me down on the bed, and she gets on top of me. So as I'm being taken care of by this beautiful girl, now I'm being worked on my back and trying my hardest not to lose it, because she's so beautiful. And so all of a sudden, at this point, the celebrity, who I now recognize because he's drunk and the mask is crooked on his face. So it's like, I'm like, well, I see your face. All right, well, there you are. How you doing? And he goes, let me get you. He wants to sandwich her. He wants to go an inch south.
So he wants, while she's on top of you, he wants to stick it in her ass.
Yes.
Oh.
So she turns to him.
Your balls are going to touch. There's no way around that.
The whole thing's a disaster, right? So she looks back and she says to him, something like, she does this like silent kind of like language, like, no, I don't want to do that right now. And he's like, come on. And there's a debate going on. So finally she's like, she hits back to me. And we, by the way, we're connected. We're making love at this point, okay?
Yeah, your dick's in her vagina and his dick's in her butthole.
Well, he tries, but he can't get in.
And how many times did his dick touch yours?
Never. I mean, if it did, it doesn't matter because I wouldn't have felt it anyway. I don't care. I'm not squeamish. There, I said it.
Really?
Well, I don't know. I'm too into this girl. I'm into this girl. Well, okay, so he's got a fungus on his balls. I don't know. I wasn't even thinking, dude. I was just like, this is an experience. I'm already done. Okay. I'm already fucked. So he can't get in, and he goes, what the fuck? I can't get in. And she turns around and goes, don't fucking blame me. I told you I didn't want to do it. And they start having a fight about not being able to get in her ass as I'm having sex with her. And they're having a fight. And I'm thinking to myself, I look back and I'm like, this is the beginning of the end in this relationship. I mean, this is a weird thing to have a fight about. There's another issue like that, you fucking like, yeah, that's whatever, I get that. But they're swingers. So he can't get in. They have this fight. And then he kind of storms off, and she kind of goes back to me, and we do our thing. And so now, I can't believe this is like the most popular podcast. And there goes my reputation, by the way. And so now it comes time for me she wants me to finish off in a porn fashion, which would be, again, in her mouth. And so I go, okay. And so now we're going to do the whole money shot thing. And it's been a long time, and I just lose it, right away again. And as I'm, coming, I see Mr. Celebrity come running around with the camera, and he comes around and he goes, no, oh, fuck, honey. Why'd you let him come so fast? I wanted to film it. And she goes, What am I supposed to do? Stick my finger in his dick? Don't be an asshole. I don't have any control of it. And now they get in an argument about that. And as their argument, I'm like, all right, thank you so much. I throw on my fucking pants and I run the fuck out of there. And
God, I need to know who this is.
And by the way, then they got divorced.
Have you ever seen that guy since then?
No.
That would be the mind.
Am I allowed to guess?
No.
Because I gotta save some.
Yeah.
That's. Anyway, I wasn't there. By the way, that story doesn't belong to me. That's a friend of mine's story. But I was.
Ustream has apparently died. Have you noticed?
Yeah.
What happened? Is it us?
No, it's not us. It's the Ustream.
No.
Because there's still 1,900 people tuned in.
Yeah.
Is it just Ustream crashed?
Yeah.
Sorry. Well, we're still broadcasting.
Guess you have to download it from iTunes.
Oh, the end, son. The end part. The best part. So, you've never had a situation like this ever again. That's like one of those stories that you hear about. Like that's like a Hollywood story.
I've had those experiences.
How
really?
many
more than one?
Yeah. How many times
Really?
have you been in the same room with another guy with a girl? How many times? Like 10?
I don't want to get too detailed, but when I was single in LA and you know, with a house and no worries, and I was a young guy, I did that kind of stuff. I mean,
all the time.
I mean, I wasn't a swinger. I didn't go to orgies. I didn't organize anything, but I was pretty good at getting. I think my friends would tell you I was pretty good at getting a group of great open-minded girls together and hogging all of it.
It's a funny thing to talk about, though, isn't it? It's a funny thing to talk about because when you start saying, you know, that I banged all these girls, I banged this girl, I banged that, you open yourself up to people getting angry at you.
I don't care.
I know you don't. I know you don't.
I mean, I don't because you
didn't do anything wrong.
I didn't do anything wrong, and I would do it again, and I had a blast. I had a fucking blast.
And it's true.
And it turned me on. That turned me on. You want to turn me on? You know, if you throw a bunch of like 6 really cool girls in a room, and they're all like, "We want to fuck you," that turns me on. Yeah, it turns me on. Gets me going. Sorry, I know it's a crime, but yeah, I'm down.
Isn't it funny though that you think about this like the way people describe it? Like this is a fucked up thing to talk about, you know? Like,
yeah, but that's what's interesting. Yeah, it's taboo because when I was telling the story of the UCB, it was actually kind of an experiment. I was like, I want to see what happens to this audience when I tell a real story about something that most people would never admit to, because it makes you look to a lot of people bad. It makes you look like a pervert, but I don't believe in that shit. I don't buy it. So, and anybody who knows me knows I'm just not hung up on that stuff. I'm really not. I wouldn't change that experience for the fucking world.
What's that guy's name? Vincent Gallo? Is that his name? Is he the one who did that movie Brown Bunny where Chloe...
And she still has a career.
Yeah, she blew him in the movie.
Right.
Yeah,
on
it was
camera.
a movie, and in the scene, she actually sucks his dick, and he comes.
Do you know
all
what I
over.
notice about, especially women, when what I noticed about? I told that story, and there were a lot of women in UCB. Women were really open. Women were really found. Like I had a couple women say, "Hi, I found that story really honest and refreshing." And
how do you end it? What do you say?
The theme was a slippery slope, and how you can if somebody calls you about an orgy, if you don't turn around and drive home immediately and throw handcuffs on yourself. Anything else is a slippery slope. You're going down that slope if you're a guy like me.
Right.
So you gotta fucking, and that's and that story about getting a call like that is what a lot of us deal with on a day-to-day basis with our addictions. Whether it's I'm trying to stop smoking, I'm trying to stop drinking, I'm trying to stop fucking watching porn all day, whatever it is, people have these addictions. I'm trying to stop meth, I'm trying to stop heroin. It's the same addiction, man. It's the same impulse. And so to suggest that I don't have some of that in me and that I in the past haven't acted on that is dishonest. And by the way, is suggesting I'm not human. Fuck you if you got a judgment on that. I thought it was awesome, and that's how it is.
What do you think makes that impulse? What is it? What evolutionary purpose does it serve?
I know exactly what I think it is. I think that kind of behavior ultimately does two things, a couple of things. Historically, it threatens. First of all, it's unsafe activity. You can actually catch a disease and you can spread it. So there's that. I mean, I use condoms and stuff, but there's this notion that you historically, if you had sex with a lot of people, you came down with shit like syphilis, and we have a historical memory of promiscuous behavior leads to really shitty diseases. That's the first thing. But I also think that a society has to have certain norms and certain rules because that was always the way you were able to be more efficient. I think when you had a credo that people bought into, it was easier to organize things. It was easier to create a cohesive culture, a cohesive belief system. And those are very human impulses and developments. And so when you have somebody who decides, I'm going to follow my appetites and I'm just going to fuck and be a real slut or a real dirtbag, whatever. These are the words people use. I think we all go, all of us rightly in some ways go, well, that's really indulging your appetites, and nobody can sustain that, because actually what leads to that kind of behavior isn't necessarily anything positive. You're certainly not going to develop a skill.
Right.
It's
generally considered unsavory.
It's base behavior. It's giving in completely to the beast.
Yeah, and the only people that support it are freaks.
That's right.
Other fellow freaks.
But we're all freaks.
Yeah. Yes.
If we weren't freaks, then YouTube and RedTube and all these things and porn wouldn't be a multi-billion-dollar industry. But you have to. We have a culture that's obsessed with purity. I mean, this Anthony Weiner thing, it's obsessed with it. The guy had to resign for sending a picture of his thinly clad package to a co-ed. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's very strange, but what do you think leads to what purpose does that addiction have in human beings? Why do we have that? Why does it exist? Why is there this weird thing that makes us fixate on things?
I know that there's a book I read called The Selfish Gene. I know that a scientist, I can't remember who wrote it, but I know that a scientist would suggest that genetic variation has both ends of the spectrum. So you have to sort of have the need for sex is very strong in human beings. And I would imagine that you have examples of people who have a very strong sex drive and they're on one side of the spectrum, and other people that are asexual. And it just probably, you can chalk it up to hormones or whatever it might be.
But I don't even necessarily mean sexual. I just mean what is this proclivity for addiction that people have, for compulsive behavior, or impulsive behavior rather, or compulsive and impulsive?
Maybe first of all, they're trying to fill a void.
Right.
They're trying to feel something. I think that comes down to the juice.
Do you think it's because we don't live hunter-gatherer lives, so we don't have these thrills of survival?
I was going to say that I think when you have to track down a deer and kill it, that requires extreme behavior in some ways. I mean, it requires adrenaline, it requires endurance, it requires supreme aggression. When you kill an animal, like we came up millennia killing animals with a spear or a bow and arrow, you smell that blood, you have to skin it, you're involved in that animal's life. And I would imagine that the activity of hunting on that level is a huge rush. It's why people get addicted to war.
So you think there's like some sort of a gap, and then the average person working a 9-to-5 existence with some sort of staid behavior pattern that they have to follow throughout the day, that these people have like a hole that needs to be filled.
There's no question.
And then the porn comes in, or drugs come in, or gambling come in.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Because we have a lot of needs, and I think one is, and by the way, I'll tell you what need it probably fills. We have needs. We have a need for certainty. We have a need to feel like I know where my paycheck's coming. I got a roof over my head. I think we have a need to connect with people, But we also have a need. A lot of that behavior when you gamble. Look at it. When you show up in a room and 6 girls you've never met are there to fuck you, or that you don't even know what they look like, and your heart's beating. You know what you're really responding to? Adventure, uncertainty. The need to not know what's coming next. And human beings have a very deep need to put themselves into the unpredictable, just as much as they have a need to be in the predictable. But if you look at somebody who doesn't have anything that unpredictable in their lives, what happens? They get fucking bored. It's why when you make all the money in the world and you've done it all, a lot of people get a sense of loss because there's no longer that feeling like Soros.
No mountains to climb.
Yeah, well, Soros, the guy who the rich, the multi-millionaire, the billionaire guy, he was I believe he was a Jewish refugee, and he was 15 or 13 years old in Hungary as a Jew, and he was hiding from the Nazis. I mean, he had to hide from the Nazis, and otherwise he was going to be killed. And he said that in many ways those were the most exciting, as terrifying and as horrible times. They were also the times he felt the most alive, because he didn't know if he was going to make it till tomorrow. And human beings, I think, have a very, very deep need to be put in the unpredictable. And there's a way to do that that's positive. And there's a way to do that that's negative. And as you get older, like I am, you start to realize that going to orgies, or that kind of stuff, gambling, those are not positive. They're not necessarily positive things to do, because you pay a price for them in some ways. If you become a sex addict and you're chasing skirt all the time, you're going to pay a price in connection and intimacy. I believe.
Yeah.
I've had to confront that in myself, and I've had to deal with that on a personal level. And so you don't get away with anything in the world. And the best way to do it is not to be too strict with yourself, to fucking be forgiving of yourself and others, to realize that we are all hanging on by a thread in one way or another. You know, I've watched really good people try to quit smoking, and they can't fucking do it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can tell them they have weak character, but I don't choose to believe that. I believe that they're just fucking weak, like all of us, in one area. Weakness, courage, intelligence, these are all compartmentalized skills, compartmentalized virtues. Nobody is, very few people are sober all the way through. And if you are sober all the way through and you don't have any vices, you might be fucking too boring for me to hang out with.
I want to know what Dr. Drew's vices are, because he's got them.
But a lot of doctors, I've noticed tend to be very sober individuals.
I agree, but I
wouldn't want to go on vacation with Dr. Drew. How about that?
I would. I would
Maybe.
want to get him high with secondhand smoke, find out what's ticking in his brain. But when you see a guy who's constantly around people who are fucking up left and right, but yet he in his life is like very together family, very together.
But then that's part of what makes him feel good. That's a positive addiction. Dr. Drew's always challenged with a new person he's going to try to help. Dr. Drew spends his life solving problems, doesn't he?
Yeah, not only does he do that, but he's always on the Loveline show as well. People don't realize he's still got that radio show. So every day.
And by the way, he really does help people. I mean, he really does dole out needed advice. And
I don't think he's helping those celebrities. I mean, you can say they are, but those dudes need a paycheck. I mean, I guess any possible treatment, and maybe the idea of shocking them by putting it into the public eye.
Yeah, it's like intervention in the public.
Yeah, maybe putting them in the public eye actually puts more pressure on them, and it actually makes it more real.
I don't know. I'm fascinated with this notion of what discipline really means and what self-restriction really comes down to.
And you know what impulsiveness is worth, and how much is dynamic, crazy, unpredictable behavior worth in the dynamic of a machine. Because the human being, you look at a human being in the context of being a unit, and there's qualities that I appreciate, and one of the qualities, I like impulsive people. I like wildness. All my friends are impulsive. All my friends are crazy.
Me too.
It's
more color. It's more fun to be around.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about Jimmy Burke. Joey Diaz is a perfect example. You're a perfect example. To other people, I'm an example. It's like we're all the most fun people I know are all pretty fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't get interesting and funny without those weird sort of.
I agree, and I like to hold on to a lot of my impulses. I like to hold on to a lot of my whatever you would call the beast and the flesh. I mean, I do think that there's something beautiful about learning how to be in total control of yourself, of your appetites, and everything else. I think that is a virtue, and I think that's something people as adults, as you get older, should strive for. But I also think that I don't want to lose all my crazy.
Especially as an artist.
No
especially
way.
As an
I need
entertainer.
it. I draw from it.
You need it to before to the wildest moments on stage. You're letting people know in those wildest moments. Like, I've been to this crazy place.
Yeah, man. That's why I'm a stand-up comic. I get up on stage and try to make people laugh. It's called Look at Me. There's a hole I'm trying to fill in one way or another, and I don't want to lose that hole. I really don't. I mean, you ever see a really good actor? They're basket cases. They're fucking basket cases.
The key is to be that basket case, but to be happy. And as a comic, there's a dance, and it is possible. It is possible to put your balance in the correct way, so that you still are energetic and enthusiastic and creative, but yet you still have that. There's a part of your brain that will flip over to the dark side. You just got to be able to control it.
Well, but let me tell you something. When you start talking in terms of I better learn how to control it, that's not how people control themselves. The minute you start saying things like, I can't do that, I'm not going to do that, like I was doing with that hotel room.
Right.
I'm not going to go up there and fuck those 6 girls because it's wrong.
Right.
That doesn't work for me. That's not going to work for me.
Well, what does work?
I think you need a different kind. You either need a different kind of philosophy, but I think more importantly, when it comes to dealing with an addiction, I think you've got to substitute. I think you've got to associate. You got to figure out a way to associate that behavior with nothing positive, and you got to be able to associate a different kind of behavior with something that's more pleasurable.
They always
Because
say that
anytime you do that,
in any addict counseling, right? They try to get you to replace your addiction with, start gardening, get obsessed with something.
it's got to be something fun. It's like when I tell people, I notice people who don't work out, okay? And I notice that they just can't work out. And what they get tired the minute you start talking about, you got to start eating better.
Look at him. He's almost blacked out.
Yeah, because you got to start eating better and you got to start working out. What they think is, oh my God, that means I'm going to have to sweat in a gym and I got to eat better. No. All I want to do is show you very gently and slowly how much better you feel when you are in shape versus when you're not. And once you feel the difference, you will slowly start to go to that. And when you go back to your old habits, you'll go, damn, I don't feel as good as I did. I gotta do something here. And you'll try to get out of that state. It's the only way I think people really change. I really believe that. I don't think you change with a gun to your head. I think real change happens when you see and understand the difference. And that can be taken to, I think, movements like Al Qaeda's movement, this Muslim fundamentalism. When you show, they have a really interesting program in Yemen where they take these young, idealistic Al Qaeda guys and they get these Muslim scholars in a room, these like really kind of like smart guys who've been around, older guys, and they debate them. They challenge them to a debate, and they go, what are your ideas on Islam? You're an Islamic fundamentalism. You love the Quran. Let's have a talk. Since I'm an imam, I've been doing this for 50 years. What are your ideas? And they just dismantle their ideas mentally. And a lot of these guys just go, I didn't know any of that. I've been fed this kind of thing. And they're like, well, this is how it is. And let me show you the examples in the Quran. All of a sudden they go, and their minds change. And if you want to change...
So what you're saying is you need to go to the Muslim religion, and then you'll stop beating off and fucking whores in a hotel.
Well, religion, whether it's Christianity, Muslim, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, can serve that function and has for many addicts, and is a real place for people to kind of live. That's
with the 12-step program. One of the reasons why it works is that you submit to a higher power.
Exactly.
It sounds ridiculous, but as a tool, as a mental tool, using it as an operating system, that you're going to operate your mind under the confines of this Christianity 5.0 system.
The biggest problem we have in some ways, and the worst thing an artist can do for themselves is to say, all my genius comes right out of me. It takes a lot of pressure off you as a creative person or a person in general to say, you know what, I'm not perfect. I'm going to let something else guide me. I'm going to let something else. So if you're an artist, you say, I'm like Flannery O'Connor, that wonderful thing. She goes, I don't sit at my typewriter to write at all. I just sit at my typewriter and I sit there in case something happens. And if something starts working its way through me, I'll start typing.
Right,
and
but
it takes all the pressure off you.
Cynical people will look at like Pressfield's book, like the War of Art, and they'll go, "Oh, this is poppycock. This is nonsense."
That's fine. They can do that.
But it's effective.
It is effective.
That's what people don't understand. It may be incorrect. It may be all within the confines of your mind. But if you operate on the principle that you are enacting the muse, that you are contacting the muse, then it really does work.
Can a cynic explain to me why when I hear a piece of music I start crying because it's so beautiful? Can you explain mathematically how that goes? I'm not interested. All I know is I start crying because it's beautiful.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that cannot be explained.
And you know what it does?
Logically.
It inspires me.
Yeah.
I hear like a beautiful piece of music. You know why I got into stand-up? I remember when I got into stand-up after I heard your album and that Voodoo Punani song and all that stuff. And I went home that day. See, you don't know this. I never told you this. I'm glad I'm talking about this because I listened to your album and I had to leave early. I got out of there, and you couldn't understand. You got mad at me. You called me up and you go, you just left without saying bye? You just took off? You know why I took off? I couldn't handle being around you because I was so not only inspired, but I went, my friend's doing something really special here, and I know I have something in me, and I'm not living up to it. And being around him is reminding me of the fact that I'm not living my fucking life. And I remember you called me and you were mad, and I made up some excuse. I started telling you like some excuse, and then I went, dude, I got to be honest with you. You fucked me up a little bit. I said that song and your jokes were so awe-inspiring to me. And I went home and I started writing. And so that's what happened to me. That was a huge catalyst for me. I went home and started writing because after I heard that song and after I heard those fucking jokes you were coming, those goddamn this was I don't know how many years ago.
99.
They were so fucking well formed. You were such a tidal wave. It was like an example for the first time where I saw an artist just peak, come together, and just put out the power you were putting out was so retarded that it was changing the whole fucking room. People were like, "What the fuck? This guy's writing songs. He's doing." And I remember going, "I got to taste some of that. I got to have some of that. I got to get the fuck out of here."
I get that still.
That's what you need, man.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that in your life, you got to find it.
Yep.
Either surround yourself with friends who do it. go to TED.com.
Yeah.
Do whatever you have to do, man. Find it.
Yep.
It's out there. And the beautiful thing about the technology, and this is for young people, is that you can spend your time listening to music and reading about what Lady Gaga wore to the gym, or you can fucking open your mind to a whole world out there that is going to bite you in the ass if you're not ready for it anyway. So start opening your mind and start reading.
And it's important to not give in to jealousy. When you see someone doing something that you're not doing and you feel like, fuck, I'm not doing, there's an instinct to protect yourself by bullshitting yourself and becoming jealous and bitter and talking shit about that person. And that's where haters come from. What haters are, 100% of all haters in the world are unrealized potential. It's 100%.
Exactly.
I'm not a hater. I'm a pretty nice easygoing guy. It's because I'm successful. But when, like, Michael Jordan's not a hater, you know what I'm saying? I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, like, when you get to a guy at that level, they're not haters. The real haters are
There's no time to hate.
They see someone doing well and it bothers them. To a person like a Michael Jordan or a winner, they see someone doing well and it inspires them to take it up another notch.
I've always tried to look at things like that. When you see something great, and if it's a friend of yours or something, you have to use it as inspiration. It's supposed to inspire you. And haters and that notion is what that is it's a skewed perspective. I think what happens is a lot of times they say, well, you know what, there is scarcity in the world, so there's only a certain size of the pie. And if you're doing this, you've taken up all the pie and there's no room for me.
Yeah.
Not true, man.
Not at all.
There is no scarcity.
It's a terrible way of thinking,
if you
too.
open yourself up to something beautiful and great and let that work through you and really be affected, be astonished by it, be scared by it, be brought to your knees by it, whatever it takes, you will find way more strength in that surrender to the beautiful than you will when you close yourself off. And all of us had this notion to go, I'm closing myself off. Fuck this.
Everybody wants to win the lottery, but the lottery will fucking ruin you. You have to earn the whole thing. In order to be a real man or a real woman, you have to earn the whole thing. And the crazy thing is, to be the man, to get to that point, to be the man, you literally have to not ever be possibly the man, because you have to get to this Zen state where there is no the man. No. It's all about the work. It's all about what genius you're putting out is all about, whether it's music or whether it's writing or whatever the fuck it is. It's all about finding that real pure place. So there is never the man. That's when the muse kicks in. The idea of this all comes from somewhere else. It's like, maybe it is just an attitude that allows you to bypass the ego. Maybe that's what the muse is. It's just a scientific or a method of thinking that allows you to bypass the ego. But it's effective, whatever it is.
It's very effective, and I think also...
So you're never the man. You never feel like the man, right?
Well, you're bringing me to, like, the notion of celebrity, for example. That's a really good point, because celebrity actually doesn't exist. You've had celebrity for a long time, but, like, just with me now, things are starting to, I go to places and people recognize you and they want to take pictures or whatever, and you think to yourself, well, I'm doing this TV show and I'm doing, and I guess in some ways I'm making lots of money and I've kind of arrived a little bit. I mean, I'm kind of like, I'm a working actor, and there is zero difference actually in what it takes for me to keep myself inspired. And if anything, that's nice. It's a nice thing, but it certainly plays no real part in my overall fulfillment, which is really interesting, And you know this really well. I mean, I've been with you in Vegas. I remember at the height of Fear Factor when, you had to literally go to the corner and rub your eyes because everybody wanted a picture. Everybody wanted to touch you. Everybody wanted to be around you. That becomes, I guess, in a lot of ways, the exact opposite of what you're going for. It's a privilege. It's nice, but it's actually a distraction. Yes. It's actually not. It actually doesn't exist. It doesn't exist in a lot of ways. It does. I just mean it doesn't.
It's something you have to deal with. It exists, but it is weird.
What I mean is that what you think celebrity is going to be, and then what it actually ends up being.
Two totally different things.
Yeah, that's all.
And there is a dance that you have to do in order to not get sucked into the wave, not get sucked into the gravity of the situation. Don't believe it or buy into it.
Yeah.
And some people never do. No. Bryan, you've inspired people. This is a good podcast. And I've talked to so many people, and I talked to a lot of them this weekend. We did the Irvine Improv, and it was a lot of fun. And we talked to a lot of people that are podcast fans. And one of the things, the number one thing that keeps coming up is these people say that, first of all, a lot of people listen to it at work. They listen to it when they're doing stupid shit that they don't like doing, and they just love the fact that there's something like this out there. And two, they say it gives them an opportunity to look at things completely different, and it's shaping the way people think, man. There's a difference between what we're doing here than the sort of the average radio show and the average podcast is we're not afraid to talk about weird, deep shit and go and because of that, it's allowing other people to consider possibilities and ways of thinking that I don't think they would have.
Well, it's a privilege, and I know
it's a privilege for me too, man. It's all.
It's great to be on the podcast. It's and I have people come up to me all the time now. It's amazing how many people are listening to this thing.
It's crazy.
By the way, I'll be at the San Francisco Punchline. Have you done that?
Punchline's great.
I'll be there August 10th to the 13th.
That's my birthday, the 11th.
It is?
Yeah, I'm going to call you.
I've never done that club, but I can't wait to go to San
you.
Francisco.
It's amazing. It's a great club. It's one of the best clubs. It's perfect height. It's one of those places. It's got the low ceilings.
I love that.
It's tight. I think it seats probably 250, 300.
Wow.
It's perfect.
I can't wait.
Yeah, a dude, I was just in San Francisco recently. A guy gave me Bill Hicks' last live performance at the Punchline. The last time I was there, he gave it to me on DVD.
That's what's so amazing about being a comic is you're performing with such history in rooms like that.
Oh yeah, one of those, the Punchline. That's one of those. I'm doing the Ice House, not this weekend coming up, but next weekend, which is the 22nd and 23rd. The Ice House in Pasadena, and that's a small place. It's going to sell out quick. But that place is the same place it's been for like 30 plus years, man. And there's photos on the wall of people from the old days.
Oldest. I think it's one of the oldest comedy clubs in the country.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
I got to start doing the Ice House.
Come on down. You want to do this weekend? You want to do next weekend? Come down to do a guest set.
I'll definitely do
22nd and 23rd. Come on down, bitch.
I'm down.
All right, beautiful. Look, I love you, man. You're the best. Thanks, Bryan Callen, BryanCallen on Twitter, and BryanCallen.com. And you already know he's going to be at the Punchline in San Francisco the 10th through the 13th, which is a fucking awesome club. If you're in San Francisco, if you think Bryan's funny and deep on the podcast, you got to see his stand-up. Your stand-up has come. I mean, I remember when you were doing that alternative bullshit, just standing up there with your hands in your pockets, and you're fucking crushing it now, man. It's awesome. It's awesome to see.
Thank you.
And that's it. You dirty bitches. That's the end of the podcast for this week. I got some shit to do, and I'm not going to be around all week, so very busy. I'm moving and shaking. I'm in a movie now, and I dance.
Yeah.
I'm doing 4 tomorrow, so if anyone wants their fix, I'll be doing 4 live
Who
ones.
are you doing them with?
Start off with Naughty Show with Sam Tripoli, then Bobby Lee and Ari Shafir at 2 o'clock.
Oh, that's going to be a good one. 2 o'clock's going to be a good one.
4 o'clock, Tom Segura and Christine Baczynski, and then 6 o'clock, Teeb and the Heeb, and then...
Okay, well, try to keep it together for all those times, and don't make a sad face like, I'm so tired. I did all these podcasts. If you're going to commit to doing that many podcasts, you better take some 5-hour energy drinks.
Yeah.
Damn right, baby.
Yeah. Dirty bitch.
I'm going to Montana. Have you been there before, by the way?
Never been to Montana.
I have. Last Frontier, basically. Pretty wild.
All right, you dirty freaks. We love you. We are you. You are us. We are Legion.
And we love the Fleshlight.
And we do not forget. Big kisses. Go to fleshlight.com. Excuse me, go to joerogan.net. There's a guy who owns joerogan.com. He wants a lot of money. That's a story. And I'm not willing to give it to him. joerogan.net, and click on the link for the Fleshlight. Enter in the code name Rogan, and you will get 15% off the #1 sex toy for men. We are ironing out all the legal details when it comes to the Onnit Labs neutrogenic, whatever the fuck it's, nootropic formula for brain pills. I don't know exactly why it works, but it fucking works like a motherfucker. There's some nootropic formula. There's a nootropic formula that we're coming out with that is it's very fascinating. It has a very tangible effect on your thinking, very tangible effect on your memory and your energy, your overall energy during the day. I find myself, I take a lot of them when I go on the road, and I don't get tired. I'm not as tired as I normally am from traveling. They're fucking amazing. I don't know what's going on. It might be giving me brain cancer. Cancer? I can't even say cancer. Listen, this fucking show was over about 3 minutes ago, but I kept going. So, good night and Godspeed.
Later.